Welcome to Wrestling Made Me Cry. I'm Kylie. This is Collins. And we're going to preview AEW Double or Nothing today. This card is low-key really crazy. And I have something to say about every match. Because
every match. Even the pre-show?
Well, yeah, I mean, Thunder Rosa, Deonna Purrazzo. But, like, I was doing my predictions this morning, and I was also every AW pay-per-view, my dad does his prediction, so I was doing that as well because
that's so cute.
I know I've talked about this a few places. My dad has been a wrestling fan like his whole life, basically. Back in the territory days of the 1970s and 1980s, but he makes sometimes some really bold and kind of wild predictions. So I like to get them on paper. This time there weren't that many crazy ones though. I think his craziest prediction was he picked, let's see. Oh, yeah, he picked Chris Jericho, but that's okay. But anyway, we're going to preview the show today. We're going to talk about the matches. We're going to talk about the stories. We're going to talk about what you guys think. It's going to be a good time. If you want your question, your comment, your statement read on air, to make sure to submit a super chat, and we will read all of those. And we're just going to listen. It's the same thing as AEW Dynasty. When we did that episode, we're just vibing. And I'm pretty sure that was a long episode.
We're vibing.
Yeah, we're just vibing.
Oh, that sounds very intimate. I'm down for intimacy. I'm fine.
This is our community. We are intimate.
I love it. By the way, I did an accident to my hair.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like it.
I think it's pretty. I like it. I washed my hair last night because my nephew had his pre-K graduation party, and I was there for a long time. I came home, and my sister has a lot of cats, and I'm allergic to cats. So I immediately get in the shower to wash the cats off of me.
Oh my gosh.
And then I washed my hair, and I just stuck it up, and I went to bed. And then this is the result from this morning.
I mean, your hair is always bomb.com, so.
I unfortunately have super curly hair, and I live in Florida.
Unfortunately.
Whoa. It's unfortunate because I have the curly hair and I live in Florida. And so humidity, it's a constant battle. But It's okay. It's okay because everybody who has curly hair and lives in Florida looks the same. Like we all have that. So it's just an aesthetic now.
I love it.
But yeah, I think your hair looks really nice.
It's really nice. I'll send you a picture because it's a lot more orange than I wanted them to do. Because all I said was go lighter. And
I think it looks nice.
That's very nice of you.
Maria in the chat says both your hair looks fantastic.
Thank you, Maria. Love you.
Oh, Caden's here.
Oh.
Caden says, I have returned from Japan. Wrestling did make me cry there. Caden, you have not been here in weeks, my dude.
Yeah. Are you alive?
How was Japan? Tell us one fun thing you did in Japan.
And tell us one fun food you ate.
Ooh, yeah. Japanese food is so underrated. Like people when they think, at least in the West, when people think Japanese food, they think like sushi. Mm-hmm. But Japanese cuisine, there's so much. And it's so underrated. Yes, happy Mercedes Moné return day. Mercedes Moné is wrestling tonight. That feels kind of surreal.
I know. So crazy. What shirt are you wearing today?
I'm not wearing a wrestling shirt. I'm wearing a possum. And it's a really cute one.
It's a cowboy possum.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess it's kind of wrestling related because Hangman Page.
Yeah.
But I was going to wear, I had narrowed it down. I was going to wear my really, really old Bullet Club shirt, but I'm trying to wear that sparingly. So, because she's falling apart. She is falling apart. She needs a break. I have a Kenny Omega shirt that I've never worn. And then I had an old Double or Nothing shirt from the first Double or Nothing after the pandemic. But I was like, you know what? I was really feeling the possum vibes today. I'm feeling a little goofy and a little silly.
We love a little goofy, a little silly.
Yeah. Kaden says, a vegan Buddhist lunch at a temple. Sick.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Did you get some tips?
You know what, low-key I've always wanted to do? And we are already so off base, but in Tibet, they have like silent retreats where you go to like a monastery and you have to, because the monks are silent, of course, and then you have to be silent, and it's like this really, really simple way that they live. I've always wanted to do that, but I'm also a yapper and a hater, so I think it would not go well for me. I don't think it would go well. I think I would upset someone, and I would never want to be, culturally insensitive,
right?
Especially in a place like Tibet that is already struggling with so much oppression. And now this is turning into me talking about about the history of Tibet. But yes, we are watching Double or Nothing tonight.
Ooh, excellent. Oh, what's happening? Oh, my calculator popped up.
You got to make some calculations to determine if you're watching Double or Nothing.
Why did that happen? That was weird.
I don't know.
It's because I went to turn up my volume and my calculator button is next to.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into this preview of AEW Double or Nothing. There is a pre-show match.
There are two.
Well, the one I'm most excited about, Thunder Rosa, Deonna Purrazzo. This is a kind of a rivalry they've been building. When did Thunder Rosa return? Like at least a couple months, right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while, like before Dynasty, before AEW Dynasty. They built so scale. Listen, this is not, I wouldn't say this is a women heavy card, but the fact that the TBS title is on the main show, that's a win. That's a win for me. I'll take it. And it's also part of the triple main event.
What does that mean?
You cannot have a triple main event because something will always go last, right? And then that is the main event. And
right, so, that's how that works.
Yeah, so when you say this is a triple main event, so like if you didn't know in the chat, AEW on the card is advertising a triple main event, which is the AEW World title match, Swerve versus Christian Cage, the TBS championship match, Willow, Nightingale, Mercedes Moné, and then the Anarchy in the Arena Elite versus Team AEW. Listen, a double main event, I kind of get, because it's like both of these matches are super important and you want that prestige of it. But a triple, that's like the triple main event. On the main card, there are 3, 6, 9, 10 matches. That's a third of the matches are main events. That makes no sense. I'm sorry. I am so sorry, but it really doesn't.
Unless they all start at the same time. All three matches.
Imagine Willow and Mercedes in the ring while Anarchy in the Arena is happening around them.
Yeah, I'm into that. Give
Tony
me
Khan,
that.
are you listening?
Tony Khan?
Tony Khan, are you listening? There was a time where I was so in sync with Tony Khan's booking stuff that everything I said on Tag Talk happened in AEW, and it was bizarre. It was Bizarro World. And we're kind of getting back in that space where me and Tony are on the same page again. He went off on a little journey. He went off to find himself. He experimented. I never fault anyone for that. But now we're back on the same page. But back to Double or Nothing card. Thunder Rosa, Deonna Purrazzo. What are your thoughts? I kind of talked over you and took us on a tangent.
So here's my thing is that Thunder Rosa, I mean, she is a former champion, and yeah, she's been gone for a good bit of growth for AEW. Yeah. So I feel like a lot of fans who are probably new or casual or whatever don't understand or did not witness Britt versus Thunder Rosa, like 1, 2, 3, all those matches, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo being on the buy-in is a little like, oh, okay, well, because wouldn't this be Thunder Rosa's, is this her first pay-per-view back, or was she on another?
She wasn't on Dynasty, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so her first pay-per-view back.
So I mean, it's a good introduction back in. I love Deonna Purrazzo. I think that she's so, both of them are so dominant. Not to say that the buy-in is not for dominance, but I want to see both of them with titles soon. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
yeah,
Deonna come in and not immediately getting the title is kind of a little. Oh, she was on Dynasty. Thank you, Hassan. I forgot.
Dynasty was a long time ago, though.
I was a month ago, and I should remember because I do predictions. And if I had written notes for today, instead I took a long walk in the rain with my dogs. So I took a nice 40-minute walk, and it started raining. And I didn't wear my TMDK jacket, which is really disappointing. But
good thing Kate's not here.
Good thing Kate's not here, because Kate would kick me out of the squad. I'd be on probation or something. But it's difficult for this one, right? Because it could go either way. We could have Thunder Rosa win, and then she could be next up for Tony, right? Because that would be a great rematch. Or we could have Deonna win and have another match with Tony Storm, you know, like that. Is that where we're going with this, you know?
Yeah, here's the interesting thing to me, and Ace brought it up in the chat. Do Britt Baker or Jamie Hayter return tonight? I don't think Jamie, but Britt Baker kind of lurking is really interesting when it comes to Deonna, because of their friendship, and
because they're friends in real life, right?
They're friends in real life, yeah. And I think since Deonna came into AEW, people have been talking about Britt versus Deonna, or Britt and Deonna as a duo. So to me, Thunder Rosa versus Deonna Purrazzo, the outcome of that match should be directly related to when and where and how Britt Baker returns.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what story they would tell, because Jamie Hayter is still kind of out there. But I think when Jamie comes back, the goal has to be Britt versus Jamie. Like, you have to go back to that.
Absolutely.
So there's so many moving parts here now, because Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa are notorious enemies. They're rivals in a lot of ways. And so Deonna and Britt being friends, and Deonna beating Thunder Rosa, or Thunder Rosa beating Deonna, like, either way, this match could go any way.
Right.
Yeah. But I do think, I don't know if Britt Baker returns tonight, because they haven't really like teased anything. It's that explicit to me, at least. But I think it would be good. It would be a lot of fun. And Jamie, I don't know when Jamie is going to be back. It sounds like she's going to be out for.
Yeah, according to Fightful Select, she is undetermined. So she's still not cleared.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I'm not her doctor, and I don't know the extent of her injury, but I do know that when it comes to injuries like this, it can be a super minor thing, or it can be super, super serious. And the difference is like millimeters.
Yeah.
That's just how the human body is. But this match is really interesting to me, because we waited a long time for Thunder Rosa to come back in the ring.
Right.
And now here's Deonna, who debuted, who has lost all of her big matches for the most part. I mean, she lost to Tony. And so, I don't know. I think you give it to Deonna. I think Deonna needs that big Hallmark win.
I think so too.
I don't think you bring Britt Baker back on the pre-show. But I do think you can maybe plant some more seeds and bring Britt Baker back on Dynamite. Because I don't know, because like the other women's matches on the main card, it's Willow and Mercedes. Unless you go straight for Britt versus Mercedes. I mean, you could do that. I mean, that would make sense. Oh, listen, we are fantasy booking now.
Listen, I'm all for it. I'm here for your theories, because, I mean, that's the thing. This match could go 100 different ways.
Yeah.
But what is the most logical, what is the most safe, really depends on if Britt Baker is returning.
Yeah.
who's going to be the leader of this division.
Yeah.
That doesn't hold a title. Who is going to be first in line for that title? For who's going to be, if Mercedes does win the TBS title, who's going to be her first opponent?
Yeah. And I do think that Britt Baker versus Mercedes Moné is the biggest women's match they could put together right now. And I think it's probably one of the biggest matches AEW could put together in general. I think because Britt is an AEW mainstay, I think people forget how much star power she really actually has. Right. She is consistently at the top of the merch sales when she's active. She consistently gets great reactions. She is the face of the AEW women's division. So she's gone, she comes back. Here's Mercedes Moné, probably the most anticipated women's debut in AEW history. One of the most anticipated debuts, period. The fans love her. They love Willow, but they're excited about Mercedes. She brings something new, something fresh, something a little bit more high production, which I think a lot of that is the story that she's telling, the gimmick, the WWE invader thing. And then you have Britt, who built the division that Mercedes is now on top of. So that to me is like, that is the story. And I think it would be really, really interesting to see Britt Baker try to be, and I don't like this comparison, but I think it's the most apt, an MJF style babyface where she's mean, she's cutthroat, she's rude, but she, at the end of the day, the fans love her because she is AEW.
Do you think the fans love Britt Baker?
I think overall, yes. I think Britt Baker, if she wasn't beloved by fans, she wouldn't be a draw. When she's in the segment, it's a ratings draw. I hate talking about ratings, but here it works. She wouldn't sell her. She wouldn't get all of this social media engagement. I do think there are fans who grew tired of her because, one, she was kind of overshadowing Jamie Hayter, and people really wanted Jamie. I think people started to resent her a little bit for that. And I think also people really started to resent that every time Tony Khan didn't know what to do with the women's division, didn't have a story for the world title, didn't have a story for whatever, he just yanked Britt and give her it. And so Britt had a lot of title opportunities because of that. And I think AEW fans especially resent that because they want stories that make sense. But now we're in a women's division where the stories do make sense, right? And so I think Britt versus Mercedes Moné, that is the biggest match that they could do right now.
Sure.
And Mercedes is a heel now. So I'm not sure. I don't like heel versus heel stories, and I don't think it would work for this situation. But Jamie Hayter is still there, and Jamie versus Mercedes, that's another big match that they could do. And I think, I don't know the direction of the women's world title because I have thoughts about that, which we'll get to. But I think Deonna and Britt together, and Camille, if Camille debuts.
Oh man.
I always forget that Camille is lurking. Like, she's there.
Always lurking.
And I think, listen, that would be sick.
That would be sick.
There's so many combinations in this women's division. We're talking about like a small group of women's wrestlers in AEW. But there's so many women in this division, and any combination of them is magic. There's so much star power now. Like, we are in a completely different era.
Even just from a year ago of where the women's division was, because people were out with injury or out with XYZ, or they weren't being built, and it just kind of started falling apart. Even a year ago this time with Double or Nothing, I think that this group of women is miles beyond the star power, the talent that has evolved. And with rumored names of Camille, rumored, Britt Baker returning, Jamie Hayter is not too far, we hope, on the horizon. Okay, give it to me, because this is what I want our women's division to be built on. And this isn't to say that, Julia Hart is out with injury. She has been absolutely freaking fantastic as the TBS champion. So when she comes back, like, that's also another factor. Sky is also getting in wins, especially on Ring of Honor and Rampage, which not many people do watch, but it is visible, and we do see that AEW is trying to build up the women's division. I just say pull the trigger.
Yeah, you need to go, like, especially because Forbidden Door is going to include Stardom.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, you have Joshi talent in AEW, you have Riho, you have Shida, you have a great base there, but you also have Tony Storm, you have Athena, who we haven't even really talked about in this picture yet. You have Mercedes, you have Britt Baker, who's doing whatever training. She looks great, by the way. Look at her Instagram. You have Camille. You have Willow Nightingale, who has history in Japan with Mercedes Moné. You have Serena Deeb. You have all these young talent. It's crazy to me. And I think we kind of hit like a cultural reset in AEW, I guess is the term, where they really got down to brass tacks and they said, what makes a good division, right? And it was consistency, and it was solid stories and solid booking. And that's, I think, the women's matches on this card. It's Thunder Rosa, Deonna Purrazzo. The story is a long-term story. And as we've been talking about, there's major, major implications for the future. It's not just a one-on-one throwaway. It's Willow, Mercedes Moné. Obvious banger. And then it's Tony Serena Deeb, which has been interesting. Tony is kind of, I think, reaching the next act of her Tony Storm character, where she's kind of made it. She was a starlet. She is kind of transitioning back into like Tony, normal old
yeah.
Whereas Serena Deeb is very good at playing the foil to that, where she is not theatrical. She is trying to be as real and authentic as possible. Fans, everybody has their own thoughts on Serena Deeb. But that is a very basic, fundamental wrestling story that will have implications, especially because Mariah May is there. We didn't even talk about
my God.
And so it's just, there's so many moving pieces. So that's why, to get back to the preview, that's why I'm not mad that this is on the pre-show, because I think, one, it doesn't get lost in the 1/3 of the show as a main event, main card. And also, I think it's here because it's going to build excitement for the future women's division. It's here to maybe allude to something that's going to happen on the main show or something that's going to happen on Dynamite, but it's very much like Tony, Deonna, they're not there as filler. They're very much there to entice people, as the pre-show should, to buy the show, to commit to it. The other pre-show match, no.
So they announced this match last night on Collision. It is a trios match. Oh my goodness, someone is at my door. I apologize.
Ooh, we got a little jingle.
Yeah, sorry. It dings. Living in an apartment, you got to know who's looking at you. Why did I say that? Okay. It is a trios match of the acclaimed Max Caster, Anthony Bowens, and Daddy Ass versus, they're calling it Cage of Agony, which is just Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony of Toa Liona and Bishop Khan, which Bishop Khan looks so, like, last night just looked so ripped.
Yeah, I love
He had
Khan.
no right to look like that.
Yeah.
But here he is.
Back when I was at Body Slam, like in the old days.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. I interviewed Khan because Ring of Honor had folded, and Ring of Honor talent were doing a lot of media to like get indie stuff out there, indie stories and whatever. So I did a lot of Ring of Honor interviews, and Khan was one of them, and he was one of the best ones because the interview was great, but he was also so professional and so kind and so encouraging. And ever since then, I've been a stan. Like, Con could do no wrong, because I will be there. I will show up. But
that's fair.
Yeah, Brian Cage. And I know people love Brian Cage. And, like, I know that to some fans, he is their John Cena, right? He is their Batista.
He is like somebody's John Cena.
Listen, and because this is a very small, intimate community, I will say this. Every time I tweet hate about Brian Cage, someone comes in my DMs and they're like, "You're just so stupid. You don't get it. You don't get him. Like, you don't understand."
I don't get him.
I'm like, I don't explain it to me.
Explain.
Like, I don't get it. Because, like, the thing about Brian Cage, it's so weird to me. He has a mohawk, he doesn't. He has face paint, he doesn't. He's wearing a cape. Oh, not a cape. Trunks, tights. I'm going to do a bunch of flips and super athletic stuff. I'm going to body slam you 50 times. Who are you? Who is it? Because first of all, he can't cut a promo. He comes across as a theater school kid sending tape auditions to me. And so he has to have someone speak for him, but he's always paired with people who are just more charismatic than him.
Right.
And that has been his big downfall. He needed, if you get Cage and you get him in a one-on-one with someone who's good on the mic, Stokely or Don Callis even, like someone who has that kind of ability to talk and feel not robotic, he could shine. But for whatever reason, he will have a banger match, right? Or a banger match. I'm not a big fan of him in the ring, but other people are, so I respect it.
Right.
And then somehow he always ends up in a faction. Somehow. And he is always positioned as like the star of the faction.
Yeah, right.
When everybody
people see
other guys. Like if you like Team Taz, he was positioned as like this is the like heir to Taz. And Hook hadn't even wrestled yet. And people saw Hook one time with a bag of chips. And they were like, that's the dude. That's the dude. Well, Brian Cage is wrestling and wrestling and wrestling. And they're like, where's Hook? Send Hook.
Send Hook.
And then they saw Ricky. And they tried to make Brian Cage a babyface and Ricky and Hobbs heels. As though I would root for Brian Cage or Ricky or Hobbs. I mean, they have given this man everything they could. They gave him Taz. They gave him an ultimate beatdown angle to gain sympathy, and no one cares. And so for me, first of all, the Acclaimed, goodbye. These guys, also goodbye. This match does not need to happen at all. It just doesn't. You know what should happen? A Ring of Honor match.
Okay. Do not diss Ring of Honor in front of me. I will get you.
It wasn't a diss.
Oh my gosh.
No, I would say they
put him on Ring of Honor. Okay.
They should put a Ring of Honor match on the pre-show because Ring of Honor has the show.
That's what you mean. I thought you meant just put him on Ring of Honor.
No. I meant bring Ring of Honor to AEW to get them promo for their
show. I was about to go.
No.
You ignited something in me.
I love Ring of Honor. Well, I don't love where Ring of Honor is right now, but I love Ring of Honor.
Well, yeah, that's another day, another dollar. Okay. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. Your buy-ins should be matches that you're like, oh, this is kind of shades of what this pay-per-view is going to be, right? It's got the same tone. It's got the same, asterisks. It's in the same font. We're not in the same wheelhouse here. Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo, yes, they both of them could go for either title. So now it's like, oh, okay, I'm excited to watch that match. This just takes the piss out of everything. I'm so beyond, as you can see, scissors, right? I have a foam finger over there because I love being a part of the scissor gang, right? Love scissoring. Okay. Hello, did you see last night's Max Caster attempt at, I don't know, it was just piss jokes. Yeah. Your fruit. Like, okay, we get it. That's your brow of comedy. And it works for some people. But unfortunately, I'm not the target audience. So this is not what would get me to buy the show. And maybe that's the thing that they need to do, is they need to have 2 different ice cream flavors, one for people that I actually trust about their wrestling opinion, and then people who are casuals who see big guys like Brian Cage, like Toa Leona, like Bishop Khan, and they go, oh, big guys against these, like, you know, funny, you know, Blink 182, you know, ass boys. You know, like, they're not the ass boys, but you know what I mean? Like, they're just punks. They're these little pipsqueak guys. And you're like, wow, I want to see big guys against little guys, and I want to see them fight, and I want to see how the little guys overcome, you know, the big guys. Like, that's so primitive and so underdeveloped that I thought that, like, that wouldn't be what you would put on your buy-in. It would be on a different show. It would be on a Rampage. It would be on a Collision. It would be on something else. This is not exciting to me because it is primitive. It's very one-dimensional to me. And I don't think that that's what your buy-in should be. It shouldn't be one-dimensional. And I might get a lot of hate for that because there are some great wrestlers in this, right? You have Anthony Bowens, who is fantastic. I love Anthony Bowens. I've always been a Billy Gunn stan. I mean, this man is in his 60s, right? Or 50s, late 50s, 60s. You can tell me in the chat because I don't. There.
Yeah.
He's old.
Yeah. By wrestling standards.
I love Bishop Khan, and I love that on Ring of Honor, both Bishop Khan and Toa Leona have been having singles matches that I go, oh yeah, I forget that they actually can get some wins and they can wrestle. But it just is soured by the Max Caster and Brian Cage for me.
Yeah.
And this is not for me.
Yeah, and I think it would have been a really, really intriguing and interesting booking decision if they had booked Anthony Bowens versus Bishop Khan in a single.
Absolutely.
I think that would have garnered more attention and more intrigue than this trios match. And I think the Acclaim still have a strong fan base, but we are getting to a point now where I think people are waiting for something, some kind of evolution, some kind of development in this story, because it's the Acclaimed at Billy Gunn, right? And they do the same things over and over and over again,
right?
And for a while it worked, and people really wanted to see it because they love a homegrown talent and all that stuff. But they need to prove that they can do something more now in this AEW,
right?
Which is a lot different from the old AEW. In this AEW, everybody, if you just look at even at the main card, with the exception of the FTW Championship match, because death to that, everybody there is capable of playing multiple roles and doing different styles and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And the Acclaimed don't fit as well as they used to. And so opinions on Max Caster aside, because I don't want to turn this into like a political and ethical discussion.
Well, I mean, that's not what I'm saying. You can be a total numpty, and I still think that you're great at wrestling. But it's the fact that the caliber of talent is a little bit higher than it was last year, last month, last week. It is constantly getting better, despite what what haters say online, whatever. But it's the fact that juvenile wrestling and juvenile talent, it can go either way, right? We can have some really funny, silly matches that are geared towards entertainment. Hello, every single Danhausen match has an element of being juvenile and silly, but yet so entertaining. You get medium, where it's like Orange Cassidy is silly, comical, he has his hands in his pocket most of the time, right?
Yeah.
But he actually can wrestle his ass off.
He has depth.
Right.
Like, he's not just the Orange Cassidy character. He can be, I hate the term like a real wrestler, because comedy wrestling is real wrestling. But you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
And so, like, with the Acclaimed, they kind of had like a little bit of that. But I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I would like to see them succeed, and I would like to see them do interesting things. But I think they need to like take it back a notch and like say, look at what they've done, what worked, what didn't, and adapt and overcome. And I think part of that is moving on from daddy ass, moving on from the scissor me daddy ass, the scissor me, all that kind of stuff, and reestablishing themselves as the acclaimed as they were.
Have you ever had a friend who just says and repeats like the same sort of phrase all the time?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is how it feels, right?
Yeah.
I had a friend who goes, and that, oh, I can't remember. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Like that's all they said all the time after things. And it's like, after a couple of times, it's like, haha, that's kind of funny. After the 50th time of seeing it, it's hearing it. I don't want to hear it again. Right. I don't want to hear the same jokes week after week after week with mediocre wrestling and dick jokes and piss jokes and all these things. Like they can be evenly spaced to where I'm actually entertained. And that's kind of funny because that is my humor. I love fart humor, but it's the same joke, just insert a different wrestler. And I don't know. It definitely is cheapening to me. This might be controversial. And remember, if you want us to read your comments, I see lots of comments going on. If you want us to read yours, send us a little super chat. We'll read it and we'll see what you think too. But I think that this run has gone on along too long for Billy Gunn. I think that it's starting to cheapen in his star power. I don't know. Like I've always been a fan of Billy Gunn, and this is just kind of leaving a bad taste in my mouth. And I don't want to have that towards Billy Gunn because he is an incredible legend, but I don't know. It's starting to cheapen and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So
I 100% agree. And I think that's a good segue into our main card.
Ooh.
Bang Bang Gang versus Death Triangle.
Did you just Renee Paquette the Bang?
Yeah, Bang Bang Gang.
And the Bang Gang.
The Gang. It's such an awful name. Bang Bang Gang.
The Bang Bang
Bullet
Gang.
Gold was so easy; it rolled off the tongue. What and then Death Triangle, AEW. Oh, geez,
my
classics. God. I am so excited for this.
I am too.
Listen, Jay White, I think he's on the upswing, and Jay White, his dynamic, like the beatdown angle of Pac, which I think I put a picture of it in our thumbnail.
Yeah,
and he's like holding him like a baby. So good. So, I love Death Triangle. I love them all individually. I love them together. I've always loved them. They are so talented. And then you have Jay White and the Guns, who are on they're the up and coming. I think the Guns especially have gotten better with every match. I think a lot of people forget that they were kind of just like thrown in. Like they trained. I think that someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they trained at for at least for a little bit at Flatbacks, which is Tyler Breeze and Sean Spears wrestling school.
Oh,
yeah, it's not that far from my house. I've always wanted to go, but anyway, and they were doing that kind of during the pandemic, so they are still very in the grand scheme of things newer wrestlers, but they are getting so good at being annoying, at being obnoxious, but also being, when it comes down to it, being intimidating and very much like Jay White. And then you have Death Triangle. It's Pac and the Lucha Bros.
Did you see how ripped Rey Fénix was?
Yeah.
I was not expecting that.
I was shocked because he's always been fit, right? Like,
right.
But he has never been like built like that.
Right. You seen those trap muscles? I was like, oh, they're gonna fight.
He said, I'm getting injured a lot. I need more muscle. That makes sense. You know what? He has cushion now.
Took notes from Kenny Omega. When Kenny Omega
Kenny Omega came back from injury and he was like 50 pounds heavier in a good way.
In a good way, right? And it's
all the right places.
Out.
His back, his legs, just everywhere.
That was goals, crazy for sure. For sure.
And then and it's Pac. He's always a pristine. I mean, I think Pac could not work out for like 2 years and still be in the same shape. I think that's just how he is.
Well, if you've seen Pac as Neville, I feel like Neville definitely didn't live up to the full potential that is Pac, right? That they look very different, right? That Neville in WWE was supposed to be something else, right? Cruiserweight only. But I feel like Pac delivers so much more, and this is the depth thing that I've been talking about. He's not just a cruiserweight. He's not just a flippy dippy motherfucker. Sorry, I said motherfucker. Sorry. But he delivers some of the hardest hitting punches I have ever seen that is small deliver. Like, you don't want to be on the receiving end of some of these things. Plus, he's going to do all these flipping things. Plus, he's so fast, like a freaking bullet when he jumps outside of the ring.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be against Pac at all.
No. And I think people... Kyle's in the chat. Kyle says Collins is used to the After Dark podcast on Thursday nights.
I am. I'm already with my MFers over there.
But the dichotomy of Pac and Jay White, like the bastard and the switchblade, like that in itself is already, to me,
that's already money. That's it.
And so you add in the Lucha Bros, who I'm always excited. And then you add in the Guns, who, listen, I was a gun hater. I was a Gun Club hater.
I remember that you were a Gun Club hater.
And then they put him with Jay White, and I freaked out because you're poisoning my baby Jay White. I don't need it. I hated the Guns. Listen, they rose to the occasion. I give credit where credit is due. They did. Mm-hmm. They rose to the occasion. They met the mark. I love them. But anyway, this trios match, this is the best trios match I think they could put on right now. And I think it's going to be work rate, banger, just flashy, everything at once, all of the things. And I fully expect that this is going to be a contender for match of the night. It's going to be a sleeper because it's a triple main event. A third of the card is the main event. I'm going to keep saying that because I still can't wrap my mind around it.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be just absolutely stellar work. And I picked the Bang Bang Gang to win this one.
I also have picked the Bang Bang Gang to win. I would like Juice Robinson to come back. I don't understand back injuries clearly because, you know, things can be, they're just like necks, right? It's the vertebrae. You know, you don't know how it heals. But he's been out for like a year, so don't they bring Juice back? I don't know. Is it like the similar, like bringing Adam Cole back, where like he hasn't had a match yet, but you see him on screen, like, yeah. And is that enough for me? Yeah, it is enough for me to see Juice Robinson and his honeycomb realness. You know, what is that? That's what people are saying, that he looks like the honeycomb.
I just want to say
mascot.
Hi to Amanda. Amanda in the chat says, yes, I love both of you, excited for Double or Nothing. Mm-hmm. Me too. And listen, I think the fact that Chris Jericho's on this card doesn't even feel like a big deal to me now. Because like the rest of the card is fine. Like I can go make some snacks, right? Like we can get her over with. But I was going to say something about the Bang Bang Gang, and now I don't remember because I was so happy.
Do you want Juice Robinson back? I mean,
oh yes, Juice Robinson. I think they're building up the Bang Bang Gang, so when Juice comes back, they can really pull the trigger. Because I think that they have bigger singles ambitions for Jay White and Juice, but especially Jay White. And I think it would be really, really interesting because you bring Juice back. And then you put the Bang Bang Gang parallel the Undisputed Kingdom. You have 1-for-1 matches. So I think that is where we're going because the Adam Cole Jay White match is going to be so major. And MJF is also still lurking, and he has stories to finish with both Adam Cole and Jay White. And so I think that is like the creative direction for that. And I think if Juice is ready, back injuries, like we talked about with Jamie, back injuries are another one of those things where it's like millimeters of muscle could take you from a minor injury that heals in 2 weeks to a major injury that takes a year and a half. Like, right. That's such a very, very delicate spot. And a lot of those injuries become chronic injuries where they just keep going and going.
They just keep re-injuring themselves.
But, I mean, so if Juice is ready and he can come back, even if he's not ready to wrestle yet, like I'm perfectly fine with Juice just being there because I think that his unhinged energy, his ferocity, like that, the way that he is adds so much edge to the Bang Bang Gang.
I mean, that's also the thing is all of these guys in this match, right? From Pac, Ray, Penta, they've all had injuries that have kept them sidelined for a while. Yeah. The Bang Bang Gang, for the most part, we've kind of seen Jay White be healthy in AEW. For the most part, we've seen Austin and Colton be healthy in AEW. But both teams have been at their top physical forms somewhere along the trajectory of AEW, right? This Death Triangle, I don't think has been any healthier than they are now.
Yeah.
This Death Triangle is meatier, it is punchier, it is more hard-hitting, and they are flippy guys. So I feel like this is just another, I don't want people to think that this is just another Bang Bang Gang win, that this is just, a feud that's, built up, whatever. Like, I don't want people to think that because I think that this is the Bang Bang Gang's, like, biggest defense.
Yeah.
Especially since unifying everything. Yeah. We knew, you and I talked about it, that the Bang Bang Gang was going to win over the Acclaimed. That wasn't like, evenly caliber to talent, right? I think that this version of Death Triangle is going to give them a run for their money. Mm-hmm. But
I think Death Triangle, you could almost put them against anybody and it would be in contention for match of the night. Mm-hmm. Like, they are just so talented. And I don't know where you go with Death Triangle after this. I would like them to stay a unit, put them against the House of Black, put them against the Patriarchy. Like, you could do so much with them and they would just be excellent.
Absolutely.
But the people in the chat are talking about Malachi and Adam Copeland. So let's move on to that one so that we can have a discussion. I picked, just straight off the bat, I picked Copeland.
This is going to be insane. What did you think of the blood spot? I never asked you, even in, I don't know what was up with me not chatting this week, but I need to know your thoughts on the blood spot.
I didn't hate it. I liked the callback and like the nostalgia that it invokes because Malachi's whole thing, his whole story has been there's like this dark entity inside of Adam Copeland and he's tried to hide it with marriage and kids and being a good guy and all that kind of stuff, and I'm going to bring it out. And then here we see Adam Copeland not being a helpless victim of the mist and all that kind of stuff. He knows that the animal is there and he's weaponizing it to defeat Malachi Black. I like that because I think it is a more dynamic and entertaining story. If Adam Copeland knows that he's secretly, or not secretly, he knows that there's evil inside of him and he is in full control of that evil, that is a more compelling story for our champion than him being a victim of the demons controlled by Malachi Black or whatever. The blood itself, like the way it looked, not my favorite, but I do appreciate like the story element that it invokes. I picked Copeland to win this one because I think he is going to, it's because it's a barbed wire steel cage. I think he is going to show Malachi that he is even more evil than Malachi knew. I think that is going to be the story told.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it culminates in a Copeland heel turn. I don't know if it culminates in House of Black turning on Malachi Black. I don't know, but something weird is going to happen there with these characters, because I think Adam Copeland is going to out evil the House of Black, and I think that is what we're going to get.
That's scary to think.
Yeah,
I would agree. I have the same prediction, and it's not because I don't think that Malachi Black is up for the challenge, because I think that Malachi is a fantastic wrestler. I don't think that he's been booked as dominantly in AEW, but I definitely, I mean, people who only know Adam Copeland in AEW don't know the evil that Edge had when he was in WWE, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is that edge to him. that is evil, right? There is something that that fans don't know that is under the surface. But remember, he did get misted. Do you remember? Yeah. So we have seen a far more darker side to Adam Copeland. And I think that match that he had with Brody really started to showcase the clean facade coming off. So I want to know how they get back to him teaming with Christian Cage in all of this, because I think that's the end. That's the end goal. Mm-hmm. But
I think I have thoughts.
Tell me your thoughts.
So I think when it comes to first off, Adam Copeland getting misted, I think it's really cool because we've seen like Miro overcome the mist just by being stronger and being like more well, I guess. It's really interesting to see someone overcome the mist because they're just more evil, and the mist is like child's play. I think like that is interesting. I think Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, I think there's a really interesting story to tell of the decimation of the patriarchy, where they destroy Killswitch, which is Luchasaurus. They destroy Nick Wayne. They burn all of that to the ground and like are reborn as, you know, I don't know, Christian Cage, Adam Copeland. I don't know what their name would be. But I think it would be really interesting to kind of turn the dynamic around, because when Adam Copeland came in, it was very much, I want to team with you, dude. We're best friends. Like, let's do it. It'd be really interesting for Adam Copeland to be like whispering in the ear of Christian Cage, like almost devilish in a way. Like, this is what you need to do. This is how we, you know, get to the next level. Like having that influence in that sway, which is a major, major contrast and juxtaposition from Adam Copeland. I'm here to have a good time. I'm here to wrestle. Peace and love. I love you, Christian, my best friend. And I think like that is when Adam Copeland, and people in the chat are talking about it, when Adam Copeland in interviews says WWE restricted me from doing things I wanted to do, I think that is what he's talking about. I think it was never the Judgment Day. It was never the gothness. It was that he wanted to take it a little bit in a different direction and a little bit further. And I think there's a really interesting visual that they could have of Christian Cage and Adam Copeland standing over the ashes of Christian Cage's family to be reborn. And I think because Adam Copeland's whole thing with Malachi Black is like, you're hiding behind your family, this image of a good dad, like, going to soccer games, whatever. Adam Copeland shedding that and then encouraging Christian to do the same, to be reborn as something more powerful. I think that should be the story we go with. Because I don't think Adam Copeland simply joining the patriarchy is interesting. And I don't think with the patriarchy as powerful as it is, I don't think they can just say, peace and love, goodbye, all done. And I think there's so much that they could do with those two as a duo, Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. But I think it all comes down to how they handle Adam Copeland tonight. Because if Adam Copeland fails to beat Malachi Black. This whole thing falls apart. And then where do you go with Adam Copeland from there?
I mean, the stipulation is if Copeland loses, he must bend the knee and join the House of Black. And it's hard to not paint the comparison between the House of Black and the Judgment Day, right? The whole point of the Judgment Day was to elevate Rhea, to elevate he's not Punishment Martinez. He is Damian Priest. Thank you.
Yes.
My brain went blank for a second. So I mean, that whole thing was to elevate young wrestlers. So I don't know how we don't paint the comparison of, oh, he's just joining another spooky faction. Oh, he's joining another spooky faction. Like, I get the comparisons, and I don't want that for him. And I don't think that that's what's going to happen. Who do you think would show up to help Adam Copeland?
That's
because Malachi has Brody and he has Buddy.
Yeah, I think the obvious choice is Christian. I don't think it's happening. FTR, I don't think you can do that because FTR is on Team AEW later in the night, and then you would kind of align Malachi and the EVPs in a weird way, like enemy of my enemy. Nathaniel in the chat says Gangrel. Mike says yeah, I think also I wouldn't discount Copeland getting in the ear of the House of Black and manipulating something there. I think Buddy in particular is very much like the minion of Malachi Black. Like he's very much in that character. Mm-hmm. But I think Brody King has gotten an opportunity to shine on his own with the stuff with Julia. And I think you could do something interesting there where he prevents Malachi from maybe taking things too far, or he helps Adam Copeland take it further, something like that. I think that would be a really interesting interplay. But if they're going to stick with Adam Copeland as a supreme babyface who is there for good times and good vibes, then you have to find someone who is just as enthusiastic as him. Like I don't know what the term is.
It would be difficult to be in Adam Copeland's shadow. You know what I mean? Like it would be difficult to be his lackey. Really
no one that that they could bring in that would make sense. Daniel Garcia maybe, but no, I wouldn't. I think that's not that interesting. Like I said, it can't be FTR. It can't be anyone in the Blackpool Combat Club. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the card, everybody is tied to one of these other matches in some way. And it makes things super convoluted. So I don't know. I think it'll be very insular because it's a barbed wire steel cage, not normal. Yeah, barbed wire steel cage, not normal steel cage. And I think that they're going to do something really interesting with the dynamics of the House of Black. Something. And I fully get the impression that it's this is a step where the House of Black is not going to be the same, but also Adam Copeland is not going to be the same just because of the nature of the story that they're telling. And someone, I don't remember who in the chat, asked about the wedding ring. I think Adam Copeland is playing along because he did a 3-minute some odd promo about all of this. I think he's very much playing along with Malachi. He's humoring Malachi. Ha ha. You don't going along with it. I think Adam Copeland is going to have something else up his sleeve.
He gave him a decoy ring. The other ring is the one ring that rules us all. Sauron comes back.
Joke's on you. But no, I think it's going to be, a match that is going to be a lot more interesting than people think. I don't think Moné talk says, what if Julia returns tonight? I don't think she's ready because she just had surgery not that long ago. You could bring her back and have her not wrestle, but I think you save that for her to do something physical because Julia's biggest strength is that physical imposition. I'm looking at my wall of figures. Hangman's out, Eddie's out, Samoa Joe is a no. CM Punk? No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I think this match is going to have really, really interesting implications for the TNT title picture. And I love that because it's going from, the Christian Cage Adam Copeland rivalry, which I loved, into something a little bit different. I love Adam Copeland, and I would love to see him do something kind of like old Edge, like before retirement Edge, where he was unpredictable and scary. And anytime he was in the ring, anything could happen. And you as a fan knew that. Where he didn't play by the rules. He was like Edge versus Randy Orton, I think, is the best, not the greatest match ever, whatever it was, the greatest match to ever
That's the greatest match ever.
I'm talking Edge with long hair in his prime. Randy Orton, who was a menace at the time and like curb stomping everyone. That dynamic. I think doing something along those lines with Adam Copeland, like that's something that AEW hasn't really had. Someone so psychologically, I don't want to use the word demented because I don't like that word.
Someone, it's just a little bit psycho, right? Like a little
sociopathic, psychopathic.
Right.
Like they've had spooky, scary,
masochistic. Yeah,
they've had spooky, scary with other people. I mean, Penta did some spooky, scary stuff. They've had like the psychology stuff with CM Punk and MJF. Like they've had that, but this would be something completely different that AEW hasn't had. And also Jason says, all I want from Copeland is to grow the hair out again. I would, but if his hair is thinning, then because a lot of wrestlers cut their hair short. A lot of people in general cut their hair short when they get older because it gets thin and you can kind of see. But when it's short, you can't really see. So it happens.
It happens.
Okay. Do you have a match on the card that you want to talk about next? Because I'm kind of like...
We can talk about Roderick Strong versus Will Ospreay.
William Ospreay.
I've talked about this on every podcast. The thing that I know about Roderick Strong is that he loves his wife and he loves wrestling. Yes. And he's going to do anything to get that win, right?
Yeah.
And this is for the AEW International Championship. We have not seen Will Ospreay lose yet, right? We haven't seen him take the L, be pinned, and in a manner that makes him look less than, right? And I've made it the comment on this show before, and I think that AEW has really done a great job at kind of taking the Kenny size hole in all of us, right? Of that dominant wrestle god, place, I guess, in us, and kind of put in Will Ospreay for the time being. They're not the same wrestler. I don't feel the same things that I feel for Will Ospreay that I do for Kenny Omega, and that's my personal feelings about Will Ospreay. But I don't see how Roderick Strong wins this match. And now I have to think, okay, what is Will Ospreay going to do for the AEW International Championship? However, cheeky heels, right? The Undisputed Kingdom is here. There is a Wardlow dissonance with Adam Cole. Are we going to see Adam Cole? Is something going to brew where Will Ospreay does get his first loss, which Kenny Omega has lost before on pay-per-view? That's not to say that Will Ospreay is not allowed to, but I feel like it's almost too early for Will Ospreay to lose on an AEW show.
And I think for me, in addition to it being too early, I think this Ospreay winning this title gives him something to do instead of just like spinning his wheels. It gives him something to do because the world title picture is doing something else. And I think this, for Ospreay in particular, especially with Forbidden Door coming up, I think that this gives him something to have to defend, to be the fighting babyface, to be everywhere all at once, in anticipation of All In, All Out, those big shows in a few months. And I think Roderick Strong losing on the flip side, that gives us a good story for the Undisputed Kingdom. You know, how does Adam Cole react to that? How does Wardlow react to that? if Adam Cole is super sympathetic to Roderick Strong when he would have never been for Wardlow, like how does that dynamic play out? I think like that is more interesting. And I think at this point, you either have to give Ospreay this title or give him Swerve, like ASAP. Because he is the hottest thing right now. Swerve and Ospreay are the hottest things in this company.
But if Will Ospreay loses, he's not going to get Swerve until he can. You know what I mean? They're not just going to let him lose here
I think what they would do is give him a big win at Forbidden Door and then give him Swerve right after. I think that they would just 1-2 punch it because it's almost like Ospreay's at a point where, yeah, the promos are great, the matches are great, but you have to have a direction for him. Mm-hmm. You can't just give him every dream match and wait for Kenny Omega or wait for him to wrestle Okada or whatever it might be. He is at such a point where the fans need to believe that Will Ospreay is going places, and this is all for something. It's all like AEW is invested in him. They are doing something with him, and I think it's almost like Okada. Like they had to give Okada something because you can't just be there. Because fans need to know that Okada is not there to collect a paycheck. Okada is there to be Okada. And I think Ospreay's in the same place. And I think Jay White was also in the same place. So I think Ospreay wins here. I think it's a great match. Roddy's going to give him a run for his money, all those kind of things. But Ospreay having a title through the summer with the Forbidden Door is going to be New Japan, CMLL, Stardom, and AEW. There's so much that you could do with Will Ospreay there, whether it's a New Japan opponent, someone completely new, a big major like multi-person match, like I think what was it, the first Forbidden Door that he wrestled Hangman, Adam Cole, and Jay White? Oh no, he didn't. I don't remember. Anyway, Kenny Omega is not here. Kenny Omega had surgery. Mm-hmm. So a week ago or so. Yeah. So I think the goal should be, what can we do with Ospreay that is independent of all the other things that he's done? Like we needed a new stepping stone. And I think this would be a good place to start. And at All In or All Out, like you could have that. I don't know. I think Okada Omega should come first.
So it was Jay White, Hangman, Okada, and Adam Cole.
Okada, yes. I think Omega Okada should be the priority. But I also think Ospreay is not out of that mix because there's still so many matches they could do with him, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's the obvious Adam Cole. There's the obvious Jay White. Right. But I think people forget, like, we're in a company that has Samoa Joe. We're in a.
How can we forget about Samoa Joe?
He lost the title, and then people were like,
where is he? He had a squash match this week, so
I don't know what they're doing with him, but I guess that's a story for another time. Yes, as Mike in the chat says, MJF is in the mix. He's here. Hangman is in the mix. He's here. Like, this is such a big roster, and I think this is not a knock on Roderick Strong, and I don't want it to sound like it is, but Will Ospreay having a title in your company going into this multi-promotion pay-per-view and the summer and all these big shows. I think like that. Imagine the posters with Will Ospreay with the title. Imagine the promos of a champion Will Ospreay, not someone who's trying to be a champion and failing, someone who is a champion. I think like they need that baby face because Swerve is a baby face, but in a completely different way. He's not the kind of classic like baby face that Will Ospreay is, where he's wholesome and so earnest and all that kind of stuff. He's very much a baby face in a different way, which is not bad. Like I think these two things can coexist. But AEW they need a figurehead that gets on the mic and moves the audience. And
I mean, is Bryan Danielson not that person, or is he trying to hand over that role to somebody?
I think he's handing over that role because I think Bryan Danielson is in a place, and I think fan perception of Bryan Danielson is in a place where we are savoring every moment. because we know it's ending. And I think once you put an end date on it, people automatically start looking for the next who's going to step up. And there's no Kenny Omega, there's no Hangman, there's no MJF. Like, you start dwindling that down, and that's why Ospreay signing, like, I don't know why people in the moment were like, yeah, this is a big deal. It's Ospreay. Of course he's going to AEW. But, like, I don't think people understand how fundamentally major it was for Ospreay to sign with AEW. Because...
How so?
He...
Tell us.
It's not only that he fills the Kenny Omega gap, right?
Right.
It's not only that he is a great wrestler and all that kind of stuff. He is so dependable, where and kind of the same way Moxley is, where he will do anything that you ask of him and he will do it exceptionally. Sure. And my big critique of Will Ospreay in New Japan was that he felt all the time, even when he was world champion, that he was in the same space. That he was kind of... New Japan had an idea of who he was, and that was Kenny Omega. And they tried their damnness to make him Kenny Omega. But I think in AEW, when Will Ospreay can get on the mic, and he's very clearly Will Ospreay, and he can wrestle, and he is very clearly Will Ospreay, and do all these things, there's something so unique about him in AEW. And if you take Will Ospreay out, I don't think there's anybody, as strong as this roster is, I don't think there's anybody that is a one-to-one substitution for what Will Ospreay brings.
Sure.
And I think that has somehow gone under the radar for people. Like, even if Kenny Omega was there, I don't think Kenny Omega could do this Will Ospreay role, especially with the Elite doing what they're doing. I don't think he could.
I mean, a year ago, I would have said Jay White, but I'm not sure now. But
yeah, Jay White is like in an interesting spot too, where I think it was clear that he came to AEW and they didn't know what to do with him, because I don't think they expected that he would be signing, just from my own perception. And they gave him a faction, they gave him some stuff to do, kept him busy, and now I think we're in a spot where we can see where it's going. Where you see Jay White is important, Jay White has meaning. He's doing a lot of promos. He's cuddling Pac on stage after beating him up. He's doing all these really interesting things. And I think the people talk about like the trio signing, the Mercedes, Moné, Okada, Ospreay signings. I think time will tell, but I think we really just have not digested and comprehended how massive that was.
I mean, any of the, MJF returning could push tickets, right? I'm thinking like money factor, like who is going to be pushing your ticket sales? Who's going to be pushing your merch sales? Who's going to be pushing, your video game sales that they kind of are doing this weird thing? Who would be pushing those right now? And what we're seeing is kind of, I don't think it's a slowdown, but with Kenny Omega not being around, with Adam Cole, say what you will about Adam Cole, whatever, MJF, Hangman not being around, it has slowed those ticket sales, because they do move merch, they do move money. So having to kind of build up really quickly this Will Ospreay, Jay White to be in this spot, and having Swerve in that main title, how are we selling tickets here? And who is the believable I don't know, figure, right? This spearheaded here, because
and I think people sometimes forget that both Will Ospreay and Jay White are a lot younger than I think what a lot of people perceive. They're both, I think Kenny Omega is approaching 40, and so people just assume that Jay White and Will Ospreay are also there, but they're like 30.
But they're in their 30s, yeah.
And I think, I don't know how old Adam Cole is, but I know that I think he's younger than Kenny Omega. I think Kenny Omega is the oldest of the Elite, except for Cody. I think Cody's older.
So Adam Cole and I are same age. Okay. So 34.
Yeah, pretty young. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think when it comes to like the longevity of AEW, mm-hmm. I think especially with Kenny Omega's injuries and to a lesser extent, I'd say like Eddie Kingston's injuries, you really need to start like, not that the AEW hasn't done this, like making homegrown stars, but they need to position people to take the helm, but not in a way that forces them to be the same, right? So Will Ospreay can take the helm from Kenny Omega and do it in his own way and in a way that's even better, right? Because that's how you grow a promotion and you sustain it. Jay White can take the helm from someone. They can take it together, whatever. And I think that's where New Japan really, really messed up, because Kenny Omega left and they said, we got Jay White, we got Will Ospreay. You're both going to be Kenny Omega, but two different versions of Kenny Omega, because they were trying to recreate Kenny Omega and sort of keep that trend of growth under Kenny Omega going. And it didn't work. And so I think AEW is very conscious of that and trying to build these younger guys, expose them to the audience and build these stories and this AEW lore around them in a way that doesn't force them to act a certain way. And that's where I think Will Ospreay really, really shines, where he has the influence of Kenny Omega, like the bond he has with the crowd and all that kind of stuff, but he's not trying to just act like Kenny Omega to recreate Kenny Omega, whatever.
I mean, but that's also the thing to say, and I don't want to cut you off. I apologize. It's okay. But Kenny Omega has been so successful. I do think that if you want to be successful, being that, cross fandom, whatever, getting people from the video game industry, getting people from Japan, getting people from all different walks of life to kind of become your fan, I do think that he could be the blueprint for that. If you want to be, have a career in not just wrestling, but be renowned in another area, Kenny Omega would not be a bad thing to try to emulate, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So, and I don't see that yet with Will Ospreay, although learning more and more how much he loves Assassin's Creed, it's like, oh, I have that in common because I love Assassin's Creed. So it's like, I want to see more and more of that out of Will Ospreay, and maybe him taking the title from Roderick Strong and having that international championship component, right? Because when the title first came, right, with Pac, he was going all these different places, right? Showcasing the belt here, challenging this person here, going to England, going, everywhere. How cool would that be with Will Ospreay? Just being like, I want to wrestle everybody.
Yeah.
And that sort of spirit hasn't really been in Roderick Strong, because they are doing that storyline with the Undisputed Kingdom. It is stuck in storyline. And I want to see the AEW International Championship how it was intended. The person takes it on the road, goes to multiple promotions, and is just showcased. And with Forbidden Door right around the corner, I want to see a top tier New Japan, top tier, if they had Pro Wrestling Noah, I don't know. I don't know if that partnership is there. CMLL, I don't care. Like, get someone of that top tier status and fight Will Ospreay. He's going to have a match regardless.
Yeah.
But how cool would that be for a title?
Yeah. And I think when it comes to Will Ospreay and AEW, not to like harp on this too much, I really appreciate that AEW seems to be taking their time. Like, like they're aware that Will Ospreay's a star. They're aware that people like him, that he has stellar matches. They're like aware of it, but they aren't rushing his growth or rushing his character development in AEW. They gave him the time and the space to find his footing. And it reminds me of, I think it was one of the scrums. I don't remember which one, where he was asked kind of about that. And he was like, I'm learning as I go. I've never done weekly TV. I've never done this kind of stuff. So I'm figuring it out. And I appreciate that AEW gave him the space and the time to do that. And they didn't rush him. And I think like that's really paying off now. And when it comes to Roderick Strong, great wrestler, obviously. No one's denying that. But I think Will Ospreay and Roderick Strong is going to be a great match. But I think the bigger story for Roderick Strong is not in being champion.
Yeah.
It's the downfall of the Undisputed Kingdom, however that shakes out. Whether it's Wardlow versus Adam Cole versus Roderick Strong, everybody's fighting everybody, whatever it ends up being. But I do want to talk, since we've been talking about Japan, I do want to talk about the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship Eliminator match. Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita. One, I love Moxley in New Japan, and I love that he's champ. I will throw that out there. I know
Absolutely.
I know that's still a controversial take, but I love it. And I love Takeshita being on his own, right? Like in a singles match. But very, very much, it's very much like a test in a way. I think Mox wins this because I think New Japan is really invested in him being champ for a while.
Right.
But I think the bigger thing for Takeshita here is, one, can you go at the level where you compete with this roster? I think obviously he can, but I think like they have to remind people, because Takeshita has been kind of MIA for a while. They have to remind people like, hey, yeah, there's Okada. Yeah, there's Ospreay. Yeah, there's Danielson. Like, we have these workhorse guys, but like Takeshita's here too. He's a contender. He's a player. And I think this will set the tone for what they do with Takeshita at Forbidden Door. And I fully expect Takeshita to, if I was booking, I would give him a banger match. I would give him someone big, someone awesome.
Yeah.
A dream match. I would be like, and I put them in the ring and I say, go at it. You know, here's 30 minutes. Here's a long match. Because I think Takeshita is another one who people just forgot how great he is. Forgot how important he was to AEW for so long. And I think this is a good place for, I think Moxley wins, but this is a good place for Takeshita to really be like,
do you think that all of this happened because he's in the Don Callis?
Do I think what?
Black hole.
Oh, do I think people forgot him because of Don Callis? Absolutely. I think Don Callis, because he speaks so much and he is on commentary every time one of his people is in a match, and he is so like, he's everywhere. He overshadows all of them. And I'm not even just Takeshita, I think all of them. And I think Don Callis being part of the Trent Beretta Orange Cassidy story, I think it's a good a time as any to have Takeshita turn on Don Callis turn on Takeshita, whatever. I think it's a good time to remove him from that. And I think I don't know where you go with Takeshita from there. I don't know if you could put him against Ospreay. You could do that story. You could put him against Copeland. You could put him in something else. You could put him against Kyle Fletcher. You could do anything. But I think we're at a point now where AEW is starting to realize, as the same as they do with Jericho, that you can't just keep rehashing different versions of the same faction, with the same leader over and over and over again and expect the same results. We have a super chat from Kyle. He says, happy Double or Nothing Day. Keep killing it. Happy Double or Nothing Day. If you want plug the super chats, you want your question, your comment, your statement right on air, make sure to submit a super chat. It's hard for us to keep up with the normal chat. So yeah, I apologize for that. But by the time I look over, we're on talking about something else. But anyway, I think they're starting to realize that, because Chris Jericho and Don Callis are in the same boat, where their factions are just different iterations of the same thing over and over and over again. So I think AEW is very much, like I said earlier, getting down to brass tacks. What made Takeshita work? And what made Takeshita work, he was great in the ring and he was lovable. People loved his, when he moved to the United States, people loved his personality on social media. People loved his personality in the ring, that he was confident, that he was, the word isn't goofy, but he was personable. He was personable.
Yeah.
And I think he needs to get back to that. As much as I loved heel Takeshita and him being evil, I think there's more story to tell with him recognizing, and I think I don't know if it was a tweet or interview a few days ago, he was talking about the same thing. I think him in kayfabe recognizing that Don Callis was not the best move. It's like when someone goes to Hollywood and they get their first agent or their first manager and it doesn't work out because they got scammed.
You want to have an angle where Don Callis is just scamming people?
I don't know. He's already a bad guy. And I hate Don Callis's entrance song. It makes me nauseous. But I think that is a cool story to tell. And I think that Takeshita is another one of those guys that they could do so much more with. And Jason in the chat says, I miss Mr. Cinnabon.
Honestly, I saw that in the chat and I was like, you know what? So when Takeshita first came to the United States, right? He was like, oh, I'm buying my first car. Oh, I'm getting my first set of groceries. It's weird. Oh, yeah. I love Cinnabon. It was just this innocence that was so believable, so likable. And then all of a sudden he turned heel and it's like, okay, I'm ready to see this develop, right? Because he was so loved as a babyface, and we turned him heel and it's like, okay, I'm into this. And it has cooled down, right? It is getting a little bit soggy. So now I'm just trying to feel, okay, where do we get it?
Yeah.
Processed through. How do we reignite the excitement for Takeshita again? Because we have mentioned how deep this roster is. We have mentioned the caliber of talent has gotten so much higher, but how do we not lose Takeshita? Because he is very good.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people like Takeshita are kind of spinning in place where they're just in the same spot and they're just trying to keep them busy. And I don't know if Takeshita turns on Don Callis tonight, if we get something definitive and major, but I do think tonight maybe Takeshita loses to Moxley and Don Callis is disappointed. Maybe we plant the seeds and maybe it culminates at Forbidden Door in a big angle. I'm not opposed to that. But I do think that we need to get the Chris Jericho story. There's a couple things where I think we need to get the ball rolling.
We haven't even talked about that yet. And
let's get Chris Jericho out of the way really quick. Okay, guys. It's FTW Championship. It's Hook, Chris Jericho, Shibata.
Okay, so now that it's had some time to marinate, what do you think of the gimmick? That is the learning tree. You're still such a hater. I love it.
It's so bad. Listen, Chris Jericho, we need to have a chat because I genuinely, and I understand it's meta. It's it's 40 chess. It's blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I hate it. Chris Jericho. You could do Hook versus Shibata. We could have had Hook versus Shibata one-on-one, but instead we have Chris Jericho being the learning tree. Oh, everybody learns from me, but actually they don't. And that's the funny punchline of this gimmick. Mm-hmm. Stop. Chris Jericho has surpassed his usefulness. And he's not as good in the ring, and I don't really care because there's a lot of older guys who are not as good in the ring, and I still value them for their creative contributions. Sure. Period. I don't judge people for age. You can do it in the chat if you want. I don't. I think that's wrong. But I think Chris Jericho in this angle has done nothing for Hook. Nothing. I think Hook versus Shibata, Hook beating Shibata is way, way better. Chris Jericho is doing, and I don't have a problem with these funky stories in AEW. I don't want it to sound like I'm a sports entertainment hater.
I mean, you can be. That's fine.
But like, I'm not. But it's like, this to me is something that would have happened in 2008 WWE when we're in the pits and we're like, what can we do with Chris Jericho? We're gonna shoot work the crowd. No, it is so bad. Chris Jericho, his promos aren't as good. His in-ring isn't as good. What does he have? You give him a faction, people hate it because they are so tired of Chris Jericho taking in every young talent and making them useless. Sammy Guevara, Santana and Ortiz, Jake Hager, Daniel Garcia, Hook, everyone useless. Anna Jay, 2.0. Everybody, one after the other, kill list. And people are still recovering from Chris Jericho from being tied to him. And it's wild to me that we are continuously positioning Chris Jericho in a spot where it's believable. Yeah. Someone like Hook would be okay with wrestling him. Completely believable. I don't believe it. And I think when it comes to Chris Jericho, his worth is no longer in him. He needs to be in a daddy ass role, in a Sting role where he is not the center of attention. He needs to be, and Jason quoted me, young talent Jake Hager. I just didn't want to not include him because I felt bad. We all know my feelings on Jake Hager, okay? We get it. And the AEW guy says Daniel Garcia is fantastic now. Not because of Chris Jericho. That's my whole point. Daniel Garcia recovered. Sammy Guevara has not recovered. I don't know what Sammy Guevara is doing.
We don't care about him.
I don't know what he's doing. The rest of them, I don't know.
Here's my thing.
Now he's Lionheart Chris Jericho, where he's like living in the past, and he's like, I'm supposed to believe that he's this old guy who's like so deluded. And no, he is deluded. He is.
This is the greatest rant you've ever had.
I've bottled this up. And it's like me and Alex, who are like Alex Pulaski from Sour Grapes. We're like leading the Jericho hate train, and no one's on board with us. So you know what? Get on board. Get on board. Chris Jericho has no business being in the ring with Shibata. Chris Jericho has no business being in the ring with Hook. Hook versus Shibata is a way better match and would have made this interesting. Chris Jericho being there as the landing tree. Save Big Bill. What happened to Big Bill? Ricky Starks? If they put Ricky Starks in here, I'm done. We're gone.
I do have to say, Chris Jericho definitely has the awareness that things are not getting over, right? That he has lost his prime status with the fans, right? People are tired of Jericho. They're tired of Judas. They're tired of what was going on. So he adjusted, and now he is it's so trolly, right? He's trolling us, being like, hi guys, hi, how's it going? I love you.
So take this, put it on the pre-show.
It's not even a
Thunder Rosa Diana, put him here.
I mean, the fact that he's changed the name, right? So the FTW title, for those who know it, it was during a time when Taz
was tearing it up,
right? Is the World Championship, right? So it had that kind of moniker when it came into AEW. Ricky Starks, Brian Cage, whatever. And then Hook having it, and then he was having that feud with Jack Perry, and there was that like element of like the World Championship, right? It's very, I don't know. It's not an AEW title, but it is recognized, right? So there is this. But I like that Chris Jericho has enough awareness that he's like, I know that I'm not people's cup of tea right now, but he has the awareness to be like, I'm the learning tree. Hello, I'm in my own delusion. And he is very good at that. I do have to give him that prop, right? That his flowers for that. Like knowing when to be like, you know what? I need this gimmick that I'm pushing. I got to get out now.
Yeah.
I am hoping to God that he does not drown Big Bill, because I love Big Bill. I've loved Big Bill
I will fight for Big Bill.
I will fight.
I respect that man.
This.
We got to see Big Bill's journey personally, and I want him to succeed. I am rooting for him.
Absolutely.
And if it comes down to it, and it's me and Chris Jericho in a steel cage for Big Bill's honor, he's going down. And I don't like to hit the elderly, but I will do it for Big Bill.
Okay, I'm not advocating for that at all. I am removing myself from that narrative. I don't hate this gimmick from Chris Jericho. I don't hate it. As long as it elevates Big Bill. And then we saw shades of Brian Keith being like, I'm going to come after you. And it's like, oh, okay. So is Chris Jericho not losing the title? Yeah. And that Brian Keith is going to, because Brian Keith, that man is doing hot ass shit. He is every freaking place, every indie wrestling. Yeah. He's getting his bag right now. And I love seeing that because he's a fantastic wrestler. Do I necessarily want to see Brian Keith elevated by Chris Jericho? I don't know. No, not many people are familiar with Brian Keith, so I don't want Chris Jericho to taint it. You know what I mean?
Just like I think. Listen, Brian Keith in a position.
Yeah.
Where Brian Keith can get over being Brian Keith. Fans are already interested. They're already intrigued.
Right. He doesn't need Jericho.
The thing about Chris Jericho is he has such a poor batting average when it comes to elevating younger talent.
Oh my God.
It's a major risk to put people. No, I'm being serious. It's a major risk to put people against him or put people with him because fans are already conditioned to see a Chris Jericho faction and be like, none of you matter. You're just here for Chris Jericho. And Sammy Guevara is the prime example of that, where his fans were most interested in him when he was breaking free of Chris Jericho.
Right.
And then somehow he's like back together somehow. Like they got back together and then it was a weird thing. But I think, and I don't want it to sound like I'm saying Chris Jericho is donezo, like he should be gone, because I don't think so. I think Chris Jericho has so much experience in wrestling that he is still an asset to AEW, right? But I think, like, instead of listening to the fans who hated Chris Jericho versus Hook, instead of saying, oh, we need to get rid of this, they were like, we can make it work. Let's make it a work. Let's make it a story. AEW fans have very rarely reacted positively to that. They really they want their critiques heard. Like AEW fans, if their critiques aren't heard, they stop watching. We saw that for 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know like where you go with Chris Jericho, because like also I don't know what physical shape he's in. And I'm not saying like conditioning, I'm saying injuries wise, right?
Right.
And because like when you get older, it takes a lot longer to heal from stuff. Mm-hmm. So like he's very much in a position where they have to use him sparingly if they're going to use him. And I think that you need to find Chris Jericho in a place where he isn't, I don't know. Cause like I could think back to when Action Andretti beat him, right? And it was a big shocker.
That was a big moment.
If they had done the learning tree, then it works, in my opinion. But it's because there's so much that happened in between. And then also the Hook stuff, which was like thoroughly rejected by fans. I don't think it's working now. I really don't. And especially Shibata. Why is Shibata there? What is he doing there?
What do you think of that double submission?
Do you want me to? I can keep ranting.
I want to know. See, here's the thing. I was not expecting there to be a double submission. That match, Brian Keith, Hook, and Shibata, put that on a pay-per-view. That's what I want to see, because that was an excellent match. Unfortunately, it was on television, so it didn't get to go that extra length. And I don't want it to seem like Brian Keith didn't deserve to win, although I don't think that he was in that position, right?
Yeah.
But I think shenanigans are going to happen during this match, just like every other match on this card. I personally think that Jericho is going to retain, but I think that Brian Keith is going to be part of it.
Here's what I think happens. I think Hook wins, and I think it sends Jericho off the deep end. I think we shed the learning tree, we shed the delusion, and we go back to heel Chris Jericho.
I think that Chris Jericho needs to take time off. I 100% agree with that. Yeah. But since this man does not want to leave, having him with the title belt while other people dance around him is not necessarily what I want to spend my summer cheering for.
Yeah.
But I'll take seeing Brian Keith. I'll take seeing Shibata. I'll take seeing Hook more. I'll take seeing Big Bill more. Yeah. As long as these guys are elevated in this, I'm not too mad. It just sounds like Chris Jericho doesn't know how to take a sabbatical. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like I said earlier, that Chris Jericho losing to Action Andretti, and especially the backstage scene of him being crazy and like slamming doors and like being enraged. Mm-hmm. We can recreate that here. Sure. And I think it works. I think it salvages this. I think you have Shibata help the young Hook win. You have Shibata, the selfless veteran, help Hook win, right? And then you recreate the Chris Jericho enraged angle. You do what you got to do, whatever. Then he disappears, and you could bring him back, and you could do something else with him. He's a heel. You could have him gun for all the people who wronged him, or young stars, whatever. But I think the issue for me is the learning tree is so convoluted, and it's very clear that it was pieced together because of fan revolt and disgust. Yeah. And we need to reset. We need a hard reset.
With Chris Jericho or
AEW guy says, why would Shibata help Hook win a triple threat match? LOL. Like I just said, it's because Shibata is playing the role of like a selfless veteran, and he would help Hook win because Shibata, since he's been in AEW, has very much been like, I'm a team player. Let's help the young guys. It's the dichotomy of the Shibata selfless veteran and the Chris Jericho selfless veteran. That's the story between those.
Okay, so if you think that Hook wins, who takes the loss?
Chris Jericho.
You think that Hook pins Chris Jericho already?
Action Andretti.
You don't think that Shibata has any?
Oh, I think Shibata's a factor. I think that he's like, it's a triple threat match. He's like going to be there. Okay. But I think, like I said, you need like a hard reset with this, to me. And I think a lot of people would, whether it's Hook winning, well, I don't know what you do, but like this whole thing is so convoluted that you need to take a step back and breathe and figure out, like, of course Shibata is going to say he wants to win in a backstage interview. It's kayfabe. I don't want to sound like I'm like targeting. No.
The look on your face. Oh my God.
I don't want to sound like I'm like being toxic and targeting you, because I'm not. Like, I'm just
that's fine.
Dialogue with you. But like I think we miscommunicated there, where I'm speaking like on a not kayfabe level, and you're very much in story, which I love because I love a story. But like I see. But I'm talking about like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't want, oh my goodness. Ace says Kylie wants Shibata to be unprofessional for her agenda. That's not what I said.
That's not what she said. It's
Let's
fine.
Let's move on from Chris Jericho, because this is going to get me in trouble, okay? We are revolting. But yeah, I didn't.
Who's revolting? You?
No, these people are revolting. I didn't mean for
Listen,
it to, like, I think sometimes
Chris Jericho over Shibata, that's how I see it. And it's because Hook, no, Chris Jericho over Hook, because Shibata, because I've seen a Shibata heel. I want a Shibata heel. I love it. He can do this babyface shit all he wants. But I think he stabs Hook in the back, because he wants his title so bad. He's like,
okay. I wouldn't be opposed to that. But I also think,
because why else would they do this double submission if not to create some sort of dissonance between Hook and Shibata? They can't just be mates.
But then where does Hook go?
Feuding with Shibata.
Is it at Forbidden Door? I don't know. I just feel like...
Why not?
Okay. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think for me, my big gripe with all of this is not Shibata. It's not Hook. It's very much Chris Jericho and the Learning Tree story specifically.
I agree with you. I think that Chris Jericho needs to leave. Okay. However, he's not leaving. He is he's the squatter that won't leave your rental.
That is an accurate comparison. He's a squatter.
He thinks he's entitled to this space. And while he has this space...
It's crazy to me that he's getting the space in a company this stacked. He's not just squatting, he's winning. He's like in the court. Like the judge is like giving him like squatters' rights.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He is giving him rights.
But anyway, let's move on.
We're halfway through this card.
All right, let me pull up this card. Orange Cassidy, Trent Beretta.
Oh my God, my heart. I don't think I can take this. I don't think I can.
I got Trent.
You have Trent winning.
Yeah. I think
this is where I need like a Will Washington, because I want to know all the pay-per-views that Orange Cassidy has lost. Because Orange Cassidy does
a lot. Like Orange Cassidy has lost surprisingly a lot.
I know. Which it's like, oh, is this just a thing that Orange Cassidy does?
Yeah, I think Trent needs to win here because I think...
Absolutely.
I think they have, like, bigger plans for Trent beyond this.
I think that now that Chucky T is on the shelf...
Yeah.
For a while, permanently, whatever it is, I think that Orange can take the loss. He loses often on pay-per-views. I don't know why. It just happens.
He's one of those guys where, like, he can... lose and lose and lose like Danielson, and fans still love him. Like he's already over with the fans.
Yeah, but we need further storyline.
Trent especially is not ironclad. Like he needs this win, and Don Callis being there is suspicious to me. I don't know if like we revamped the Don Callis family with Trent, or if it's a red herring. I don't know, but Trent wins here, I think. And I think he wins decisively. And I think after the match, he destroys Orange Cassidy. And I think Orange Cassidy disappears for a little while. Because I think Trent, if people are going to believe that the goofy best friends guy is going to be a heel and like be this contender for singles titles that he like is saying that he's going to be, I think he needs that, like that big moment. Not winning.
A big pay-per-view moment. Hell yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, just looking at like the champions, I don't know where you go with Trent from there. But I think like it's very clear that the story that Trent is telling is that Orange Cassidy has been holding him back on purpose in his mind. And that he has to beat Orange Cassidy to go win the titles and have the success that he thinks that he should have had before Orange Cassidy. Kyle says Cassidy has lost 2 of his last 3 pay-per-view singles match, Roddy at Revolution and Mox at All Out. Yeah, he loses surprisingly a lot for a guy who was, when we think of AEW homegrown mainstays, like real stars, he's up there. But I mean, it's Orange Cassidy. He's, ironclad. Nothing will ever. It would take something really major for fans to get bored of Orange Cassidy, I think. But Trent, like everybody in the chat has been saying, I mean, Ace, AEW guy, Kyle, Trent is in a different boat. He really needs to win. He has to. And so I don't know where this match falls on the card. Like, if this match is towards the beginning, I say it's a really long match. If it's towards the end, I think it's shorter because the triple main event, a third of this card is main event. I will keep saying that until someone makes sense of it for me. But with Chucky T on the shelf, Chris Statlander still like kind of floating, right? I think Chris Statlander, when we get to Willow Nightingale, Mercedes Moné, we'll get to Chris Statlander. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's really interesting for Trent. It would be really, really interesting to see Trent. I don't know, because it'd be cool to see him on his own. but I also think that like Chucky T is on the shelf. Trent's like next big enemy is Wheeler Yuta. He was part of Blackpool Combat Club. So maybe
don't even get me started on Wheeler Yuta.
Maybe you move him into a feud with like Claudio or something. I don't know what you do with him. Maybe you have him run through Blackpool Combat Club, like you do something. I don't know, but I think that like they'll have to come back to Wheeler Yuta whenever he's ready. His concussion stuff. Don't know, like we talked about earlier, injuries are weird like that. But yeah, Trent has to win. He has to win. There's just, if Trent doesn't win this, then what was the point?
Right. What is the point?
What was the point? Because like you could have had, because if Chucky T's out, they don't know if he's coming back. You could have had babyface Trent Beretta, but you turned him heel, and you turned him heel for a reason, and that has to be to beat Orange Cassidy, to be like a good mid-card heel who is working with the young guys and doing all that stuff. So I have Trent. You have Trent as well?
I do.
Yeah, I think everybody in the chat is also Team Trent. I haven't seen a single person saying Orange Cassidy should win. So yeah, we found something that we agree on, guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo! All right, what do we have left? We did it. Ooh, okay. Toni Storm, Serena Deeb. I have Toni. Oh.
I okay. Oh. I definitely don't think that Serena Deeb is going to win.
Okay.
I don't think that she's going to win on her own accord. We talked about at the beginning of our show the buy-in. I was about to call it free matches, right? Your YouTube matches of Deonna versus oh my gosh, Thunder Rosa. Sorry. Whoever wins that, I think could be a factor in how this match ends.
Yeah.
I definitely think that Toni Storm is going to win. She's the best thing going on in women's wrestling right now. All promotions and everywhere. This is the best character work in ring work that I've seen in a very long time. This character is something that we've never seen before translated in this capacity. And I feel very biased in the fact because I just think that this is working. Whatever Toni is doing backstage, behind the scenes, especially with the Turner Broadcasting relationship that she has, where she's been seen on some of their programs, it's working. So why take the title off of her for Serena Deeb, who, yes, this is probably going to be the biggest match of Serena Deeb's career. Serena Deeb is just not translating for the fans. And I don't think that her specialty is being charismatic, right? You have one of the most charismatic women's wrestlers to a great in-ring worker, but she is not charismatic. And you really want your main women's champion to be charismatic as well as a great in-ring worker. So why would you waste your time and put it on Serena Deeb when there really isn't anything further? There isn't a dream match that I want to see for Serena Deeb, but I have to know, how does this play into Mariah May? How does that develop along the way? Are we gunning Mariah May towards the main championship? Is she going to try to go after the TBS championship, which I don't think that would be a thing, but that would mirror too closely to like ROH's storyline right now, where Athena and Billy are both your women's title holders in ROH. So it's like, okay, are we doing that kind of thing? No. So what are we doing with Mariah May? That's all I want to know. Where is this leading, if not for the title belt? But I didn't think that's what we were doing. Yeah,
I think Toni wins this. I think Serena is a good pick because Tony's character has been, up until this point, has been so much about her presentation, her promos. Like, she's good and she's had great matches, obviously. But I think this is going to be a good match for Tony to show, like, the old Tony is still there. Mm-hmm. I'm still an excellent in-ring wrestler. I can do all of these cool things. And so in that way, I think Serena was a good opponent. Right. I do think that Mariah May is the end goal. And I think because, spoiler, I think Mercedes is winning the TBS championship. I think Mercedes being in that division, you could take a lot of the heavy hitters and put them in there to focus on this Tony story. And it makes sense. Kind of the same way we talked about earlier with Will Ospreay getting a title to, like, get him away from the world title picture for a little bit so you can let stories breathe and pan out. I think the same thing needs to happen in the women's division, because if you have Deonna and Thunder Rosa, right? If you bring Britt Baker back, you have Camille as well. Jamie Hayter is still lurking. You know, all of these people are still there, and they are all believable title contenders, and that doesn't even account for Stardom and Forbidden Door, right? So,
right. I mean,
if you have a star in the TBS title division,
right?
I think Mercedes wins because I think you have to. She can, like a magnet, draw people in, right? I think Mariah May versus Tony, I don't think it happens at Forbidden Door. I don't know if it happens at All In or All Out or on a show in between. I have no idea. But I think that's where we have to go, and I think they plant the seeds for it here. I think Mariah sees that Tony can still go in the ring, and I think something changes. I think because Mariah's thing has been, she's been wearing Tony's gear. She's been Tony, old Tony. Right. But if Tony is old Tony, then who is Mariah May? Who is she? And so I think, like, we get the ball rolling there. I think you're too far into telling that story to not finish it. But then it's like, okay, we're so set on that story. What happens when we bring Britt Baker back? What happens when we bring Jamie Hayter back? What about Athena? What about all these other people? And so I think that is why they've been investing so much in the TBS division, is to have somewhere that is comparable and that, like, has star power or whatever. And I think,
so where do we go from here, right? With Forbidden Door a month away, who is then Tony Storm going to face? Is it going to be Mina Shirakawa?
I think so.
And have it be like a unofficial Mariah May on a pole match, you know, not like officially, but it's for the love of Mariah May. Who does Mariah May love more, right?
I think what the story is going to be is that here's Mariah May, who is the groupie of Tony Storm, and she loves her so much. And here is Mina, who is challenging for the title. And it's going to be like, it has nothing to do with you, Mariah. I love you, but I, like, have bigger ambitions. And it's going to be like a crisis of conscience for Mariah May. And I think Forbidden Door will be a great place to, like, kickstart the Mariah May Tony Storm feud. But I think Mina being there, it's almost a waste if you don't do the Tony Storm match. Right?
Right.
And so I think Mina being against Tony Storm, Mariah having, like, being pulled in two different directions, her idol, but then, like, this person who is so close to her, and it's like, where like, she has to pick, right? And I think Tony Storm is very aloof in that it doesn't care. She's just like, I'm Tony Storm, I'm the star. Like, not my job to care. But Mina is very much different than that. So I think, like, that's the story being told.
Well, I mean, it's your former lover versus your current lover. Who loves you the most, right? Yeah. And I think that there is we've seen that, you know, building up for all this time is Mariah May and Mina both have such a, you know, I respect you, I idolize you, I deeply love you. It is very similar to Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi, where they just have such a love for one another and such a respect for one another. And I think Mariah May has such a love and respect for Tony Storm, but I don't know if Toni Storm has that same sort of love and affection.
Well, yeah, and it reminds me of, and this is an old reference, it reminds me of Kenny Omega joining the Bullet Club and having to pick Kota Ibushi or AJ Styles. In that moment where he's on the apron and he has to pick.
My gosh.
And I think that it gives me shades of that here.
Yeah.
Because that Kenny Omega at that point, he was, but like people liked him. He was, people loved his matches and whatever.
But
he was very much the new guy. It was still when he was in trunks. He was very much the new guy in the Bullet Club. So it's giving me shades of that. And I think that would be an intriguing story to tell. And I think that would really elevate. I hate the elevating the young talent. But it would really push Mariah to that next level if she's in a position where it's Mina or it's Toni, and you have to pick. And that's a difficult choice. We all know who Kenny Omega picked. It was not Kota Ibushi, but I really like those kinds of stories where there is a bigger picture to it, where it isn't just you're my friend or no, you're my friend, which like women's wrestling in the West, somehow stories have become like that. But no, I think Toni wins. And I think Serena Deeb is a great wrestler, but I don't think they've gone about reintroducing her to the AEW audience in quite the right way. She comes across as like, especially because you're against Toni, like they tried so hard to be genuine, be authentic, because Toni is fake and all this stuff, but it just comes across as boring. Yeah. And I think back to when she did that first promo when she's talking about the seizures that she had, and people
my God, and the crowd.
She was getting booed. Like that should have been
right. It should have been a backstage segment of like, hey, I was having all these seizures and trying to figure out what was going on, and it was a really dark time for me because wrestling has been all like, that should be a natural babyface story. We should all like, oh, I want to get behind this. But I think because Toni A is so over with the crowd, it's that, nobody else but Toni kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So to play it up with like okay, we want you to be the baby face here, but I don't think that people care enough.
Yeah.
And that's really unfortunate because that's such a real storyline, right? For Serena Deeb, that it's so like, it's such a genuine thing of like, because we saw that with like Bryan Danielson. Remember, he was having seizures. He couldn't feel his fingers. There was such like he was so beloved and he went away because he was legitimately injured. But I don't think that there's that beloved factor with Serena Deeb. And it's lacking in the story that people don't care. And yes, Kyle Sparks, they were chanting, "Let's go Oilers." And people on, at least in my household, were going, do the crowds usually take over like this when somebody is genuinely pouring their heart out?
Yeah.
Not usually. So it's almost like, I just want this match to be done and over with. But it sucks because I think that she's a great wrestler, but there is not much more that I seem to like about Serena Deeb, and I hate that that's what I'm thinking and going into the match of her life.
Yeah, I think if it had been against almost anybody else, I think it goes a little different. But you threw her to the Sharks. They really did. They threw her to the Sharks.
Threw her to the Oilers, actually.
Threw her to the Oilers. And it was, that whole segment was so bad because Toni was getting all of the cheers.
What do you think of that new interview style where they're on the stage, but the camera is pointing towards the crowd?
I love it. It reminds me of like real sports. But like it reminds me of like sideline reporting. It reminds me of like boxing and UFC, that kind of style. I like it.
I think because traditionally with AEW, we've seen interviews on stage facing the crowd or we've seen them in ring, like in front of the crowd, or we've seen it backstage. But this new point of view is very interesting. It is intriguing, but it is easy for the crowd to hijack the tone in which you're going, because Thunder Rosa, right, did that promo with, you know, being was it Tony Schiavone or was it Renee? No, I can't remember. The chat will let me know. But she was pouring her heart out and she lost. And it felt so deflated, at least for me during the promo. And I like the different point of view. And I do agree that it is similar to, you know, legitimate sports. But I agree. It should have been a vignette. It should have been something a little bit more substantial, a little bit more compensating for her lack of personality.
And I think that is kind of the learning curve. Is it's like not every story needs to be told in a one-on-one interview, right? And not every story needs to be told in a vignette. Like there's these are two different mediums, and they can be used different ways, and they can both be used effectively. But yeah, Serena Deeb it felt like she didn't come out of nowhere, but it felt like she came out of nowhere. She had really no hype behind her. And it was very, very clear, I think, to most people that she's here to show that Toni Storm can wrestle really good. And that was it. And they tried to give her some more backstory. You know, I overcame all these struggles, but she felt so out of place compared to Toni Storm. Yeah. And like the star power of Toni Storm. And so it was not a good choice. It should have been a vignette or even a backstage segment, like, because you can turn the crowd down more and you don't see them doing things. But yeah, I picked Toni for this. And we can move right into the other women's match. Willow Nightingale versus Mercedes Moné for the TBS title. I have Mercedes. Yeah. I have shenanigans. I think Chris Statlander does some shenanigans.
Interferes?
Yes.
Yeah. Get it. Give me heel Chris Statlander, right? Yeah. Because we saw the shades of heel Statlander with Trent and Orange, right? There was that moment backstage where Trent whispers in Chris's ear.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I would not be surprised to see Mercedes build a 4 horsewomen style faction.
Ooh, who would be in that 4 horsewomen?
I think Chris.
Okay.
I think Camille.
Okay.
I mean, obviously Mercedes, and then who?
Britt Baker.
It could be, but then then you could do like a faction wars, Britt versus Mercedes. People in the chat saying Megan Bain. Yeah. There's like a lot of people, but I think, and this was really funny because I think it was Dave Meltzer said something about Mercedes feeling like a WWE guy. And like, that's the story they're telling, right? It's like Mercedes is high production and flashy and vibes and like
vibes.
Her promos style. And like, that's very much the story that they've been telling. And I think Mercedes wins here. I think she has help from Chris Statlander at minimum. Maybe also some other people. Maybe Camille. Maybe whoever. And I think she defeats the ultimate babyface Willow Nightingale. And I think then you could do Willow versus Chris as a blood feud kind of personal story, whatever, if you wanted to. And then I think you position the TBS title in a spot where stars can be there. Like I mentioned earlier, stars can be there. And it doesn't feel like a downgrade while you're doing this Toni Storm, Mariah May story to elevate Mariah May. Because what you don't want to do is have so many people on the sidelines because the TBS title feels mid-card and you don't want the people to look downgraded. I use that word, very sparingly. But you also don't want to put too many people against Toni Storm where Mariah May feels less important because I want Baker to win or, I want so-and-so to win. I don't want Mariah May, how people tend to do. I don't do that. But and also, as like AEW guy says, as the CEO joining the EVPs feels right to me. I've seen a lot of people saying this, that she should be part of the elite, the new elite. I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Right.
Because I've always felt like there needs to be a woman in the elite, because the elite's whole thing is like change the world, right?
Sure.
But it's always been just men in the faction. And I don't say that it's like, you need a token woman. I think a member of the elite who is a woman, like, then you're doing more. Like, you are changing the world at that point. And I think I've just always felt that way, and we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But I would not be surprised at all to see Mercedes Moné build a 4-horsewoman style faction. I would not be surprised to see Chris Statlander there. I would not be surprised to see Camille there. Camille she's the look. She has that. I mean, there's other people who are still kind of floating around. Anna Jay, Ty Mello has been training for her return. Megan Bain. I don't think any of the Joshi, because they're all just so babyface.
That's the thing. Okay, so now we've talked about with other matches. If Mercedes wins, who are we having her face?
If Mercedes wins?
If Mercedes wins, who are we having her face at Forbidden Door?
It's got to be someone from Stardom, doesn't it? You got to get that, because if you have Mercedes on the card and she's not wrestling a Joshi, people are going to feel slighted. They're going to feel ripped off. It's just, because, and you think about past Forbidden Doors, it's always been 2 AEW women because there was no Stardom.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to really, it's got to be Stardom. You have to take advantage of it because people are going to feel ripped off if it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Then comes in, does Stardom want to put one of their big stars against Mercedes? Because they're probably going to lose to Mercedes. Do they want to do that for the exposure of their top level stars, or do they want to feed Mercedes maybe a veteran or a lower card person, someone who represents Stardom but can take the loss? And you know what I'm saying?
Do you think that I always say her name wrong? Mayu Iwatani?
Yeah,
that's who she won. That's who she won the belt from, right? Do you think that she comes back for her?
It could be. I mean, we're also CMLL is there as well, but I think Stardom is the obvious one where I think it just makes sense because Mercedes, for this Mercedes situation, because I see people in the chat talking about CMLL for the Mercedes situation, because she left WWE and immediately went to Japan. It's got to be Stardom. It just to me, it just has to be. It can't be anybody else. CMLL, you could do more matches. You could. There's so many other women on this card. There's a whole other title. There's women out and about. There's tons of them. Pick one. But for Mercedes, specific circumstances, I think it has to be Stardom because she has talked so much about Japan, wanting to wrestle in Japan, all that kind of stuff. Blah 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 blah.
I mean, Stephanie Vaquier? I was trying to look online how to say her name. Vaquier? I don't know how to say it.
Yeah,
CMLL, she's...
And I see... The thing about Stephanie is I understand the hype, and I understand wanting her to wrestle Mercedes, and I think that's a dream match. I really do.
Sure.
But I don't know, something in my head for the stories, that story that Mercedes is telling, to me, it has to be Stardom because that's where Stardom has built this idea. This is where the best women's wrestlers in the world are. And I think, I don't know. I just feel like it has to be. It's just an instinct.
I feel like she has to be involved. I don't know.
That's not a knock on Stephanie, and I don't want it to sound like it is because Stephanie is great, and I think Stephanie is a world-class talent. But I think for Mercedes' specific story and circumstances, it has to be Stardom. And Stephanie is going to be there. There's no way Stephanie's not there. You could do Stephanie Thunder Rosa. You could do Stephanie Diana. There's so many stories.
Would we do like a 4-way, right? To just try to get as many women.
I would. If I'm booking Forbidden Door and there's 3 promotions involved, right? Or 4 promotions involved. It's going to be a long card, but also I have a 2-hour pre-show, multi-person matches, good times, whatever. But then I also it's gotta be dream match.
It has to be. That's the whole point.
I think very, very few of those would be singles matches. Just because of the politics of picking a winner and a loser. And I think we've seen that for Forbidden Doors in the past, like triple threats, 4-person, whatever's. Multi-man tags, whatever. I think there's so many different things they could do. And I would not be surprised if they did something where it's like Willow, Willow representing AEW, someone who, New Japan Strong is Stardom and is CMLL, something. Or on the men's side, AEW, New Japan, whatever, something like that. Just for fun. Like, it just to have a good time. Like, not everything needs to be so serious. And I think sometimes we get in a place where we're like, oh, but if this person from New Japan has been positioned to be the next, never open weight champion beats this person in AEW, then this person in AEW is, downgraded forever and they'll never recover. And I feel like sometimes when fans like fantasy book AEW, they get in that not AEW, Forbidden Door. They get in that rut where they're like, nobody in AEW can lose because if they lose, they'll never recover. And then the same thing for New Japan. They're like, New Japan is partnered with AEW and all their people are losing. New Japan is gaining nothing from this. Like, it's both sides. And I think, like, we can have fun. It could be a good time. It could be a good, especially with Stardom there. CMLL is there. They're both there for the first time. Breathe. Just breathe. Take a breath. It could be okay. Yeah. I also want to see Wendy there. Bonkers, you're so right. Where's Wendy? Where's she?
Wendy Richter?
Yeah, where's she at?
What? Sorry, that's like that took too long to register in my brain. Sorry.
Wendy Richter. We had so much about her and she's gone.
Okay.
AWI says, random question. When does Motor City Machine Guns come to
Okay, now. I don't think y'all understand my love for Motor City Machine Guns.
100%. I'm on the same boat.
Because I just want to see them fight everybody. I need them now.
I think Motor City Machine Guns is such like a historic name in wrestling, right? Like, I think even fans who don't watch a lot of Impact or don't watch a lot of Ring of Honor or Indies, like, they still know Motor City Machine Guns because they are such like
when I started watching TNA, right? We had Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley just tearing it up. Yeah. And that was 11 and like 13, for me 14 years ago.
Yes, like they've been fantastic and stellar.
Absolutely.
That whole time. And also Kyle says, I'm also good with an hour of Kiley talking shit about whiny fans using that voice. I perfected the whiny voice.
If you send in super chats, we can make that happen.
I'll read them all in the whiny voice.
Absolutely. Send in your super chats.
Yeah. I'll do the whiny voice.
Absolutely.
But back to Motor City. I think one, bringing them in would be a big boost to the tag division because I think the tag division, I don't want to say it's floundering, but it's very much like not a priority. And the 2 best tag teams in AEW, the Young Bucks and FTR, are involved in this company feud. I think you bring them in, they make an impact, and you don't Santana and Ortiz them. And what I mean by that is you give them a big debut and you let them sit on their own. They do not need a manager. They do not need to be part of a faction. They can go on their own. And I think that's what we do. I really do. And I think they're just so game changing. They really are. And it sounds like it's such a cliche now where someone signs and they're like, is this the best signing in AEW history? But like this would be a big one. It really, really would. And I'm not saying that because I'm a deluded TNA stan. It really would. It would be a big, big, big deal. And I don't know if you debut them. Like they do a run-in like as a surprise and they beat up people, or if you do like a Christian Cage, like formal signing of the contract on stage. I don't know.
Make it a big deal, yeah.
Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them tonight or soon or whenever. I'm not saying they're coming tonight. I have no idea. But if they're going to be in AEW, I think they come really, really soon because I think you want them ready and established for Forbidden Door. Because that is like a big deal. But yeah, I think from there we can move to Anarchy in the Arena. I'm so excited. I have been thinking about Anarchy in the Arena for weeks, guys.
Yeah, edging to it. I just feel like we've been edging and I'm ready to explode, you know?
Okay, the people in this match, if you're unaware, it's the Elite, which is the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, and Okada, versus Team AEW, which is Bryan Danielson, FTR, and Darby Allin with a flamethrower who somehow got hit by a bus and still made it here. Wow. And in Anarchy in the Arena. Okay, first of all, Nick Jackson gonna do a major flip somewhere.
Okay. You think he's gonna get back at the table spot?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's gonna do something crazy.
You perverts.
I think Bryan Danielson is gonna be a sicko.
Yeah. Covered in blood? Covered in blood?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
And he's going to really play up the head injury, neck injury, ankle. He really is. Because he's a sicko. And that's just.
I know. I just hate it. Okay,
yeah.
Let me be a hater.
The Young Bucks are going to do Young Bucks things. It's really interesting because every match they have that has a stipulation like this, they have one spot that really stands out as like insane. And so like their match with the Lucha Bros at whatever it was with the thumbtacks in the shoes. They just released new shoes. And Alex says expecting a flaming super kick. Maybe a flaming super kick from the flamethrower.
Are we going to see a freaking flamethrower again?
Darby Allin has a flamethrower license.
Okay.
Or
this man is sick. This man is sick. And he literally lives not too far from me.
I don't think that you can just bring a flamethrower to a Western match.
It's Vegas. Anything goes, baby.
Is that not illegal? Like, I'm asking genuinely, guys. Is it?
I don't think that you could light someone on fire, but I would not be surprised.
Well, I know
somebody's going to get lit on fire. Somebody's going to get lit on fire. Who do you think would be?
Well, it reminds me of like when Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega got in trouble for their match in Baltimore.
Yeah, but that was the state that they were in. This is Vegas.
Does Nevada have rules against flamethrowers in pro wrestling? Someone let me know. But I would expect Darby Allin, if not the flamethrower, to bring something crazy. Imagine Darby Allin with like a giant Jeep, like a mudding Jeep, something like that. Darby Allin, I would expect that he's going to do like a couple crazy spots and be done. Like that's what I think, because the man got hit by a bus.
I mean, he got hit by a bus. He's broken his foot. I mean, he is Darby Allin, so that's enough of a.
Yeah, and so I think
these dogs.
Oh my goodness! They heard flamethrower and they came to make sure no one was dead. I picked the Elite for this, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
I think, and this is me fantasy booking. Do not shit on me. I think either Hangman returns and helps the Elite win because Swerve has been sliding the Elite, and that's where we get our connection. Because like my big thing was Hangman wouldn't come back and not immediately go for Swerve, right? Like
Right, I agree.
If Swerve is going after the Elite,
then
and I think Hangman helps them win. And I think, Balor Club guy says, according to Google, in the United States, flamethrowers are federally unregulated tools that are not considered a firearm by the ATF. The more you know. I feel like they should be. But anyway, I think the Elite win this, one, because I think the Elite as a unit beating a random conglomeration of AEW guys makes sense, just logistically.
Right.
Two, I think the Elite story is not done. And I think whenever you do beat the Elite, that is when their feud with Tony Khan and like all the firings and the manipulation, all that goes away. So I think the Elite win here because they're a unit.
So they're an actual team.
Yeah, an actual
this
team.
Is just a smorgasbord of
and I think this
guys.
Adds like credence or adds like fuel for them to continue to fire people, to manipulate the show while Tony's gone, all that kind of stuff. Because Kenny is still coming back. Remember, Kenny left and said, I'm an EVP too, and I'm coming for Okada when I'm back in a few months. So I don't think that if the Elite lose here, I think that it's very much they lose all their power, all their momentum, all that kind of stuff. Because if you're an AEW guy and you can beat the Elite in the ring, why do you care? Right? Because they mean nothing. They're not powerful. Like you could beat them up backstage and just go have your match. Like it means nothing. So I think we really, really need the Elite to run through AEW, to be menaces, to wreak havoc, to do all of the things through the summer, especially with Forbidden Door. I know we keep saying, what about Forbidden Door? But like Forbidden Door.
Well, we have to think about what's coming next. Like what are they building next? Because it does play off of each other. So
yeah, and I think Hangman returning, helping the Elite, and in return the Elite giving him Swerve, I think it's good. I really do. And I think Team AEW here, especially because it's Darby Allin, who we've already established is super injured.
He's not coming in 100%. Yeah, exactly.
Neither is Bryan Danielson. He's not 100% either, and he's been saying that. And that's FTR, fresh off federal charges. So not exactly the best representatives of your company, but Team AEW is very, what's the word? Like puzzle piece together.
Okay.
Like they fit, but they're not cohesive in the way that we have seen the Elite be. So I think if I'm booking and Hangman's ready, Hangman returns. If Hangman doesn't return, I still think the Elite win. I think they get rid of Darby Allin early into 4v3. Naturally, numbers win. And I would not be surprised if this is a match that goes on for a little bit. And I also wouldn't be surprised if this is last on the card in our triple main event. I'm
tired already.
I'm so tired.
Are you tired?
Yeah, I have to leave.
Okay. So I agree with everything that you're saying with the Elite. My problem is I don't know where everyone else goes from here other than still fighting each other. Because I do think that there's going to be some extra factors to the Elite winning. There's going to be shenanigans, obviously. There's going to be blood, obviously. There's going to be weapons and table spots and getting back at each other, right? Nick has to get back at someone for putting him through a table, right? There's going to be all these things. And this version of the Young Bucks is very... I mean, did you watch the Unrestricted podcast where they told Aubrey to smile and told Will... oh shoot, what did they tell Will? I don't know. They told Will something. So basically they're just getting under everybody's fingernails. Someone in the chat can tell me. But I think that it's going to bring out a further edge to everyone.
Yeah.
And this match is going to be for the sickos.
Yeah.
I just want to know, what is the end game for the Elite? Is it to get their championships back? what is going on here?
I think ultimately what's going to happen, and this is me completely speculating, I think AEW is going to feud with the Elite for a while, like a long while, and to the point where we're going to get Kenny Omega joining Team AEW. We're going to run that. We're going to do Omega Okada, blah, blah, blah. And I think eventually Hangman is going to turn on the Elite. And then we'll get the inverse of Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks from whenever it was. We're going to get the inverse of that. And then we're going to get the dramatic Elite reconciliation. It's going to be a soap opera. The Elite, the Young Bucks are going to have like a come to Jesus moment. Whatever.
Okay.
I think Okada is going to beat Omega. And I think Okada is going to leave Omega in such a state that the Young Bucks are going to be a little put off. I think Jack Perry stays evil. He's a gremlin. But I think
there's going to be real glass?
Real glass here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Jack Perry's going to carry around panes of glass for us to see it. I really do. To answer AEW guy's question, he asked, how many times will Page lose to Swerve? Is this the new John Cena versus Randy Orton when they fight 500 times? I think Hangman, the next time they wrestle, I think Hangman beats him.
Hangman beats him, yeah.
Yeah, I think, but I don't think they're wrestling until later in the year.
And I think he wins the title from Swerve.
Yeah, because I think that's the story they've built, and I think that like Full Gear is Hangman's pay-per-view. It's always been like Hangman coded. And so, yeah. But anyway, back to Anarchy.
I mean, that's where he won his title, is that not?
Yeah. And it was also the Full Gear ready jokes from being the Elite. Like, yeah. But I think this match, like in itself, not even thinking about down the line, I think you have Team AEW it's going to be in crisis. I think there's going to be communication issues. I think there's going to be, they're going to be outnumbered, outmanned, all that kind of stuff. And I think Team AEW.
Hamilton.
Yeah. I almost said outgunned, and then
outgunned.
But then I was like, maybe no guns here. And then I was like, oh, what's next? Outnumbered, outmanned. So yeah. But I think not Bullet Club, Blackpool Combat Club.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think Blackpool Combat Club, the story obviously is Bryan Danielson, Claudio, and Moxley. Like that collapse. Danielson is gone. Team AEW, FTR, Darby Allin. Why is Darby Allin here? I don't know, guys. But he's here.
He's probably the biggest sicko that someone said, okay, can someone do this spot? And he was probably like, yeah, I guess I'll answer my phone.
But Team AEW is like orchestrated by Kenny Omega. So I would not be surprised to see some kind of like rally the troops moment. Kenny Omega like unfiring people. That kind of business battle. But I don't think this iteration of Team AEW, as in these four, is going to continue as Team AEW, if that makes sense. Because Darby Allin needs to be gone to heel. Bryan Danielson, what's he doing? I don't know. He needs to be gone. And then it's FTR, which, whatever. FTR can stay Team AEW. It's fine. They're not doing anything else. I mean, they're gunning for the Young Bucks in the title, so go gun for the Young Bucks in the title.
Yeah, do that. Yeah.
And Kenny has friends that he can call in. Like Kenny
has friends. Mike
has friends. And it's going to be interesting for Forbidden Door for the Elite because, like, the Young Bucks, there's an endless list of matches that you could have for the Young Bucks and Okada and also Jack Perry. So it's like you almost have to put the AEW story on ice for a little bit. Still, like, you have to continue it, put it on ice for a little bit. And then the Elite wrestle other people. They're like, like, we're the best in the world, blah, blah, blah. And then, boom, in July, building for Blood and Guts, you could have Team AEW again. That's how I think this goes. But Anarchy in the Arena is going to be chaos.
Whose music do you think is going to be playing
on a loop?
Mm-hmm.
Darby's.
You think Darby's music?
Who else? They all suck. That's a lie. They don't. But okay, like just looking at it can't be the Young Bucks. You can't loop that. No. Jack Perry, no. Okada, no. Bryan Danielson, maybe.
We have had Bryan Danielson. We have had Moxley's Wild Thing playing. So,
but it's like I think if they loop the Young Bucks entrance song, I'm going to be so upset. It's not like, you know, I really, really like it. And I think it fits their character. Do not get me wrong. I'm not insulting anybody. But it's not.
It's fine. You can insult.
Darby's music is like, it just fits Anarchy. You know what I mean?
But are we gonna see like him on a skateboard? Like, yeah. Are we gonna have weird skateboarding?
Crazy entrance too. He's gonna have some crazy entrance where like skateboard through the crowd or something. It's gonna be wild. But then the Elite would have to come out first, which I don't care about. Yeah, whatever. Darby. Okay, hold on. Let me look at this card. Oh my god, we only have one match to talk about. It's Swerve versus Christian Cage for the world title.
Okay, well,
who do you have?
I definitely have Swerve. Are we gonna eventually? Ew, somebody's so loud. Go away.
Are they outside?
Yeah.
What the heck?
Oh,
okay. They're Christian Cage fans.
So, do we see the fall apart of the patriarchy here or no?
I think we get seeds of it happening because I think Christian Cage, Adam Copeland is the end goal. And to get there, Christian Cage can't have the patriarchy.
Right.
So I think we get swerves of it. Shades of it
Swerves of it.
Shades of it here. I think we already had some dissension between Mother Wayne and Nick Wayne where she left him to be assaulted.
Just imagine leaving your son.
And we've already had like some shades of drama between Killswitch and Christian Cage. So I think, and then also Nick Wayne and Christian Cage, and also Mother Wayne and Christian Cage. So I think all of these different sort of tidbits of animosity, it's going to boil over at some point. It's inevitable. And so I think, I think we get a little bit of it here. I think maybe Christian Cage is like, why didn't you help me win? What were you doing? Or like, you didn't do enough, blah, 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 especially to Killswitch. And then I think we gradually see like through Dynamite and Collision stuff. And then I think, like I said earlier, I think Adam Copeland's going to be like, hey, bud. Psst, 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 psst.
Hey, bud.
Yeah.
Hey pal. Bud.
What would he say? Hello, brethren? Like,
hello, my esteemed colleague.
And so I think that's eventually where we're going. And like AEW guy says, Cage is the male Tony Storm. The character is too perfect to stop at the moment. Yeah, I don't think we're stopping now. I didn't mean to say that. I meant that like the same thing with Tony Storm and Mariah May, we get the ball rolling. Because I think the culmination of this happens later in the year. Mm-hmm. I think we start with some stuff, some ramblings, some stuff. Because we've already planted seeds for Killswitch to turn on.
You think that Swerve is going to use the cinder block again, or does he only save that for Hangman?
I think he saves that for Hangman. I think Swerve wins here because he has to prove that he can win on his own, and also I don't think Christian Cage needs to be world champion. But I think he wrestles a very, very solid match. I don't think this goes last. I think Anarchy in the Arena goes last because it's hard. But yeah, Ace says, how do you feel about Motor City Machine Guns with Swerve? I don't know. Because I think it's kind of weird to move Swerve from in the faction to on his own to like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would rather Swerve be on his own. Like, be his own dude. It proved that he can, like, be his own.
Right.
Person, like, win on his own and be a champion on his own and all that kind of stuff. Especially if especially if he's going to wrestle Hangman down the line. But what do you think? Because you also said Swerve. What do you think about this match, like versus Christian Cage, of course, and the patriarchy? And then how do you feel about Motor City
fitting into this match
with Swerve? Maybe not.
I don't know if he fits in here. I feel like he fits in more with the Elite storyline and all of that. Like, that's where I think that would be. Maybe even fighting FTR. I don't know. That's not where I'm thinking that this plays.
Oh my God, Cage and Copeland versus FTR. Now we're getting off on a tangent. Okay.
Now that's like a year away. Like,
yeah.
That's a while away. But I think Swerve is gonna win. I don't think much about this AEW World Championship match. I love Christian Cage. This is nothing against Christian Cage. I think he's one of the best characters he's ever been.
Yeah.
Right now, I think that it's going to be a barn burner of a match. I think that Christian Cage is going to bring out all the stops. I think that Nick Wayne's going to interfere. Killswitch is going to interfere. Mama Wayne is going to interfere. It's going to be shenanigans. I think Prince Nana, there might be some shade of him and Swerve having some dissonance. I don't know. There was a while where he was just disappeared, and I don't know. I feel like the Gates of Agony might come do some shenanigans here. But I think Swerve is getting out on top, but I would love to see him come out on top and have a returning Hangman.
And it immediately go into Swerve Hangman? Or
well, I think that Hangman being even the I don't know, not like a serial killer, but like, I know what you're doing. I'm watching you because.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I thought you meant
appearing and then disappearing and then appearing and then disappearing because we do have to ramp up towards All In sometime or All Out, wherever this will happen. But there has to be some shade of who are we getting next for Swerve. And I don't know if we go right into Hangman. I don't know who else would be feuding with Swerve. Who else has beef with him that is available? Because we know that Keith Lee is not ready. I guess I don't think he's cleared yet for the things that were going on with him. But I don't know who feuds with Swerve. Do we try the Gates of Agony going? I don't know.
I don't think so. I hope not.
I hope not, because we don't like.
I think there's a lot of people that could feud with Swerve. Like, there's a lot of heels in AEW, and then also a lot of heels in New Japan and CMLL for that Forbidden Door match.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it would be very, very interesting to see Swerve do all of that, have those matches, fight for his title on his own, right, as his own, person, while Hangman is lurking the whole time.
Lurk.
Yeah.
Appear in the rafters. Appear in his dreams. Appear in his dressing room.
I want it to be like obvious to the viewer that Swerve is worried about Hangman. Like, I want it to be obvious. I don't know how you pull that off, but I want it to, because like Swerve has already said things against the Young Bucks. So like the lines are there for Hangman to be involved with the Elite. And I think that, to me, Hangman lurking for a long time is more compelling of a story than running Swerve Hangman at Forbidden Door or something.
Question: when is this Casino Gauntlet match?
I don't know.
Because we know that because we keep going, okay, what's for Forbidden Door? We know that for Forbidden Door, the Casino Gauntlet match winner is going to face Swerve or Christian. That's happening Wednesday. Thank you, chat.
Wednesday. Yes.
Thank you. Love you.
Yeah. And I think I don't know. Swerve is just such a great champion that I feel like you could almost put him against anybody and it'd be good. Just because fans love him. He's good on the mic. He has a great character. He's good in the ring. He does everything right. So I'm not that worried about Swerve. I'm more I'm so intrigued by Adam Copeland and Christian Cage and Hangman Page and the Elite. And I'm like, my attention isn't even on Swerve and like his future because I know it's going to be good and I'm going to like it just because it's Swerve and he's so talented. And so I think it'd be so interesting if it's almost like psychological warfare against Swerve. And Hangman just constantly lets it be known that he's here. He's lurking. He's coming for you. Almost like Freddy Krueger-esque. Where like, you know.
That's what I want. I told you. Like a serial killer, but like not. But like I want it. Give me Sicko who drank the blood.
Yes.
Just.
That's what I want.
Sicko Hangman is all I want.
And I think that AEW is a place where they could really pull that off without it being corny or cheesy. Same thing with Adam Copeland being evil. Like, you could really pull that off without it being like WWE.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this pay-per-view is so good, like top to bottom, except for Chris Jericho. And so I'm so excited. I'm so excited, guys. I'm so excited. But yeah. Do you have any other thoughts? We are coming up on 3 hours.
Jesus. How did we do that?
I don't know. Do you have any thoughts?
This is going to be a great show. If not by the chat, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us for this entire time. You're a wonderful gem, and I hope you've hydrated. I hope that you've gotten something to eat. I hope that you're getting ready for today. I still have to go to the store because I'm hosting a load of people at my home.
I have to go to the store too.
Yeah, well, we got to do it. But let me just tell you, I'm more excited about this show than I have been about a lot of other pay-per-views. But that's hard because I say this every time.
We're just excitable.
I'm just excited because we sat here and we predicted, but not only that, we've shared, I want to go this direction. And I think that's exactly what you need to be doing because you don't want feuds to just have a dead end, right?
Yeah.
We see a future and we know what's going to happen and we want to be excited about what comes next. And we've said this time after time, week after week, the summer of wrestling is going to be absolutely killer and amazing. So I'm excited. What do you think is going to be the longest match on the card tonight?
I think probably Anarchy in the Arena, just logistically.
Yeah.
Because you need you set up the big spots. You also need cool down between spots and you need time for cameras to go places and all that kind of stuff. But if you take that out of the equation, just strict wrestling, Osprey, Roddy, maybe.
I think that's going to be a banger for sure.
I think any one of the matches on the card could be the longest on the card, TBH, and I think it'd be great. Except for Jericho.
Well, if you want to see how Kiley feels about Jericho and you've gotten to this place, you can just go back.
I saw God for a moment. I had such a rant. Joel Pearl says, longest match is the soon-to-be-announced Jeff Jarrett match, which has the main event to complete his banger week. Joel, who is he wrestling? Is it
Not
Jeff
me.
Jarrett? Not me.
He's wrestling Tom Campbell.
Oh my goodness, his big break. Listen, Joel knows my disdain for Jeff Jarrett, so we don't even need to. We do. I'm leaving. Goodbye. Nathaniel says, "Hi, Kiley. Do you think Adam Copeland will turn heel tonight? Maybe we get inklings of it. I don't know." Joel says he's going to wrestle Tanahashi for presidency of New Japan Wrestling and win. I would not be opposed to it.
Who has the better hair? That's all I need to know.
Needs another promotion. Listen, Jeff Jarrett, he deserves a second chance. Okay, give it to him.
How many chances have we given Jeff Jarrett? Come on.
You know what? At this point, I am rooting for chaos. And what is the most chaotic thing? Jeff Jarrett as president of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Imagine Jeff Jarrett as president of New Japan Pro
watching
Wrestling.
the world burn. I love it.
Imagine Jeff Jarrett. He's like, I'm president of New Japan. I'm going to wrestle John Moxley at Forbidden Door for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. And I'm going to win. And then he wins. Imagine.
I don't want to. Well, Kiley.
Oh my god, my final thoughts. My final thoughts are I apologize for my Chris Jericho rant.
You don't apologize at all.
But there was a lot under that. I have a vision for AEW, and I think Tony Khan has a vision for AEW, and so I'm super excited for the summer. But like for me, the two things that I'm most excited for in this promotion right now are Christian Cage and Adam Copeland, whatever that is going to be, because I think them being a tag team is inevitable. And then also Mercedes and like all these women who are coming into the division or are returning to the division or have been like sitting stagnant, what we do with the TBS title. Those are like the two things I'm most and also the Elite. The Elite are also there. Oh my, and also the Triangle. Oh my god, I'm so excited about everything in this promotion. So I guess that's my final thought is like AEW is back, baby. That's my final thought.
All right. Well,
do you want to do your plugs?
Well, I'm your queer auntie. I'm Auntie Collins. Remember, we are going into Pride Month, right? Yes. Remember to send all of the love and care. I will be plugging so many different local LGBTQ plus nonprofits during the month, people who are actually helping doing the work. So be on the lookout for that. I'm here every Sunday with my lovely Kiley. But on Thursdays, I'm also doing a podcast called Honor Ramble over on OLE Podcasts. You can always go over to my Twitter and look at my link tree. I always put my latest episode of The Wrestling Made Me Cry and Honor Ramble, as well as seeing me stream things. I normally just stream shows or I just do some cozy games. But anytime you just want to come hang out, I'm on all social media _queer auntie. If you want to participate in predictions over on my Twitter right now on my pinned tweet, you can predict along with us. It is a Google form. You do have to put in your email address. But that is just to say that if there are prizes or winnings, which there might be, I'm solidifying that today, but there might be some prize money or prize things that you can win by being the first place or even the second place. So jump on that. And just remember to be kind to each other. I don't know. Don't be a dick. Like you could be passionate and not be a dick. So
period.
And you could be a hater and not be a dick. So remember to drink your water and not be a dick.
I love that. Quotes to live by. Follow me on Twitter at Kiley Wrestling, where I am a hater. I know people have told me that I'm a hater, that I'm just embracing it. You know, we're uncensoring ourselves. We're just going for it. So you can follow me on Twitter or X, whatever, for that content. This is Wrestling Made Me Cry. We're live every Sunday at noon on Fightful Overbooked. We talk about AEW. We talk about other stuff as well. It's just like the positive stuff in wrestling. That's what we like to focus on. This was obviously the AEW Double or Nothing preview, but it's not always AEW. Don't worry. So every Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern on Fightful Overbooked. This is Fightful Overbooked. There's lots of great shows on Fightful Overbooked. Go to the playlist tab and go check them out. There's wrestling content and non-wrestling content. Jeremy Lambert, Joel Pearl, Maggie and Rob. Lots of great stuff going on. So go check it out. Subscribe, like this video, comment, all the YouTube things. And I hope you guys really enjoyed the show tonight. I really do, because I think it's going to be a great show. And Yeah, I'll be talking about it on Twitter. So come talk with me about it.
Yeah, come follow us on Twitter. We'll probably be sending each other voice notes too. So
yeah.
I'm
trying to remember if we hit all. I think we hit all the plugs. So all that being said, thank you guys so much for joining us and being an awesome chat and putting up with my attitude. I really appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.